All right, folks, it's Monday, and we got a great show for you. Kicking it off with Senator Jeff Sessions, who will join us momentarily, talk about the border crisis and, of course, the conflict in the Middle East. And then the Malzberg panel. It'll be the host of Steele and Unger, co-host of Steele and Unger. Rick Unger will be here, and Carrie Sheffield will join us as well. Also, Bill Donahue, the president of the Catholic League, also Newsmax contributor, will be here to talk about the Pope and the Middle East and the persecution of Christians. And we have some news on that front to bring you in just a second. All that, give me five and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. As I mentioned to you, a great lineup this hour. Of course, the battle in Israel and the Gaza Strip continues. We have reports of explosions in Gaza City, but also CNN had reported earlier that 4 dead Israelis inside of Israel as the result of rockets fired by Hamas from the Gaza Strip. And I think something that needs to be reported on and will not be reported on by the mainstream media. You know, when Hamas and the Hamas lovers in the media come on and talk about Israeli occupation, Israel's not occupying the Gaza Strip. Israel gave the Gaza Strip back, gave it back. I shouldn't say gave it back, gave it to the Palestinians. Palestinians never had the Gaza Strip. Egypt had the Gaza Strip. They gave it to the Palestinians. And the Palestinians ransacked everything Israel had left for them to give them a heads up, to get greenhouses. Philanthropists, U.S. Jewish philanthropists donated millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they trashed everything. And they now have what they have. There's a blockade, but there's only a blockade in recent years since Hamas began firing rockets at Israel. That's why there's a blockade, so you don't get rockets and concrete in there to build tunnels and fire rockets. So Israel doesn't occupy Gaza. The Palestinians and Hamas occupy Gaza. But I bet you there's a lot of people in this world that don't know that. All right, I bet you Senator Jeff Sessions knows it. We'll come back with him. I want you to listen to some media lunacy. Watch.
As much as Americans rallied to the cause of the Children's Crusade, also agents of the American state that were willing to attack them with armed officers, fire hoses, and police dogs when they challenged a deeply entrenched way of life in the South. Rick Perry was preceded in his call to send armed troops to confront children by Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus, and he called the National Guard to stop the Little Rock Nine from their first day of school at Central High. The presence of children on buses integrating Boston schools in 1974 didn't stop white crowds from confronting them with slurs and threats of violence.
That's Melissa Harris Perry, folks, trying to compare the children coming across our border illegally to the civil rights of the 60s. I mean, it's just insane, and no analogy there whatsoever. Joining us now to talk about this whole border situation and what the president is threatening to do is Senator Jeff Sessions, Republican from the great state of Alabama, member of the Senate Budget Committee and the Senate Subcommittee on Immigration, Border Security, and Citizenship. Hello, Senator.
Hello, Steve.
Great to talk to you. All right, let's start first of all with the latest on the border crisis. You know, I'm hearing from the Democrats that nobody in Congress should go home for the recess until something is done about the border situation, and yet I think the president's going on vacation. But nonetheless, where are we? What is going to happen, if anything?
Well, we don't know what will happen, if anything, but the Democratic proposals are to throw billions of dollars at it and not undertake any of the actions and reforms that are needed to help. Of course, truly, if the president utilizes current law, we wouldn't be in this crisis. It's because they've failed to follow current law, a long-established law, that we've had this surge. So one of the things that will be happening is the Democrats will attempt to move a supplemental funding bill for the border crisis. And Congressional Budget Office has said they only plan to spend about $25 million of that this fiscal year. That's through September 30th. So really,
there's no rush.
It's no rush. They've got monies within their budget, at least at this time. But in addition, as you indicated, the president is talking openly, and his staff openly, about executing a new amnesty of 5 to 6 million, maybe more, adults in America, that he's just going to do that himself. It would be one of the most dramatic overreaches of executive power, certainly since I've been in Congress and maybe in the last 100 years. It's just unbelievable what they're talking about doing.
What would the
Congress has refused to pass it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. What would the ramification, if he were to do that, what would that mean for this country?
Well, first of all, it would be if Congress doesn't utilize every power it has, particularly the power of the purse, to stop it, then it would be an incredible assertion of executive power vis-a-vis Congress and alter the constitutional framework in a way that the founders would never have accepted. Plain law says if you're in this country illegally, you're subject to deportation and you are unable to work lawfully in our country. The president, in his previous DACA, gave young people actually an ID card with big print across the top, work authorization. The Congress insistently resisted that, and now he's talking about tenfold, that's their word, adding tenfold to their previous action. So it just cannot be accepted, number one. Number two, these workers would be given a work authorization. They'll be able to take any job in America at a time when we are hurting, workers are hurting for a lack of jobs. It makes no sense, and it also would weaken the rule of law and really undermine any moral integrity, any moral strength that we have to have enforcement of any law at the border. Frankly.
Is that what you just said there at the end, the latter statement you made of all of them, do you believe that's the motivation? I mean, because everything you said is undeniably true, and the American people overwhelmingly would agree with you in any polls that would be taken. So I know he's not running again. He doesn't have to worry about that. But is that the purpose, to undermine any laws, any kind of management of the border? Is that what he meant by fundamentally changing America, or is that one of the things he meant?
Well, many people think so, but specifically with regard to this, apparently he has promised these activist groups, La Raza and some of the others, certainly not mainstream, he promised them he was going to do this. Congress has refused to do it, and he's told them, apparently, actually, he's told them he's going to do it anyway. So it's hard-headedness, it's a improvident promise, and it represents a lack of respect for a lawful system of immigration. He does not respect that, or he would have done much better as the chief law enforcement officer in the country in executing our laws.
And what does Congress do? You say, not allocating the funds for it, but, there are people out there who are saying, some elected officials, who are saying that Barack Obama wants to be impeached because he knows he'll never be convicted, and he kind of is aching to be impeached. You heard the administration actually bring up impeachment the other day, saying that it's a real possibility, the White House, that is. So, I mean, do you think he's almost daring the House to impeach him?
Well, it is one of the most odd statements I've ever heard. For him to say, I'm going to do this policy, and if I do, I'm likely to be impeached or something, or that could happen. What Congress needs to do is not be focused on that. Congress has a power. Congress needs to put in any legislation that passes, and no legislation should pass without this language. It says, no money of the United States can be expended to execute any such amnesty or work authorization.
That would happen in the House, but that has to also happen in the Senate, correct?
It would, and at this point, the people, it is unlikely maybe to pass this week, but what I'm asking the American people to do is ask their representatives, Democrats and Republicans, do you support this? Will you support the president's unlawful amnesty assertion of power, and will you oppose it? And the way to oppose it is the Cruz language. Ted Cruz offered a good bill. It basically says if you go forward, you cannot use any taxpayer dollar to carry out such an unlawful policy. And I think that would work. It would have to have bipartisan support, and I can't see why it would not. Why wouldn't Democrats oppose this? Aren't they members of Congress? Don't they know that Congress has passed a law saying something different, and the president's saying and asserting that he's going to just do this anyway?
You would think, but then it's all up, at least now, for the remainder of this year, to Harry Reid to bring it up.
Well, we need to stay on it. Yeah. American people need to do not take no for an answer, and I think that this crowd can be broken because we've got an election coming up in November, and people need to know where their representatives stand, and I hope they'll call and ask and insist on their views being heard.
One more real quick. John Kerry promised the people of Gaza $47 million or so, and at the same time we found out Hamas is purchasing rockets from North Korea. Why don't we just write a check to North Korea? Because there's no way in heck that money's going to the people of Gaza, is there?
Steve, this is so unfortunate. I wish this hadn't have happened, but Israel cannot sit by and let 2,000 rockets be launched from across its border on their citizens. They have to respond, and we don't need to be trying to stop them from eliminating that threat prematurely, in my view. It's a sad thing. I wish it didn't happen, but at some point a nation has a right to defend itself.
Senator, great talking to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Jeff Sessions, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. This will be the ultimate in your face. This will be the ultimate, I don't care, I'm the president, Congress won't act, so I will, and and then they'll count this as another executive order and say, oh, look, he still doesn't have as many as George W. Bush. The magnitude of this this proposed executive order that people are talking about would be unprecedented. Unprecedented. Just like the way they shut out Republicans on Obamacare. Unprecedented in the magnitude and the scope and the depth and the reach of the bill itself. So we'll see what happens. The Malzberg panel's next. Don't go away.
Do you sleep too hot while your partner sleeps too cool? Do you struggle to sleep at the right temperature? Now Sleep Number has a solution that's as revolutionary as its beds. Introducing the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer. The amazing Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer allows both of you to select your ideal temperature for better sleep. The Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer works with any mattress brand. It features active air technology, which evenly distributes air to heat and cool each side to the temperature you prefer for head-to-toe comfort. Call or click now for this free $50 savings card and catalog.
My husband and I both prefer different temperatures. He likes to have his side of the bed a little bit warmer, and I like to have mine a little bit cooler, and we are finally sleeping better together.
After sleeping on a dual temp layer, I find that I have such a restful night's sleep that when I wake up in the morning, I am energized and I'm ready for the day.
All night long, you can each enjoy sleep at a temperature that perfectly matches what your body needs for comfortable sleep, so you can sleep better together. In a research study, 75% reported poor sleep because of their sleeping temperature. That's because your body's temperature naturally fluctuates at night. But with the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer, you can sleep comfortably warm or cool. And because the revolutionary Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer helps solve an important sleep problem, it was selected as a very innovative product by Good Housekeeping. Remember, the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer can be added to any mattress brand, so everyone can enjoy sleeping better at the perfect temperature. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-317-5283 or click now for a free $50 savings card and catalog with price list. For your peace of mind, the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer comes with a 100-night in-home trial. Call 1-800-317-5283 or click now. That's 1-800-317-5283 for your free $50 card and catalog.
On Newsmax TV, Vladimir Putin is starting a new Cold War, and Obama won't stop him. Find out the surprising reason why. Watch J.D. Hayworth on America's Forum to find out Putin's real plan. Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I understand that Israel can't have a ceasefire in which they're not able to, that somehow the tunnels are never going to be dealt with. The tunnels have to be dealt with. We understand that. We're working at that. By the same token, the Palestinians have a ceasefire in which they think the status quo is going to stay, and they're not going to have the ability to be able to begin to live and breathe more freely and move within the crossings and begin to have goods and services that come in from outside. These are important considerations.
I don't even know what to say anymore watching this man talk and listening to him. Welcome back. It's time for the Malzberg panel, and on aforementioned Malzberg panel, joining us is Rick Unger, of course, of Steele and Unger on Sirius XM, and Forbes social policy analyst Carrie Sheffield is with us as well. Let me ask you, Carrie, about John Kerry of Israel, of course, can't have a ceasefire without blah, blah, blah. But the Palestinians, not Hamas, not the terrorist group, the Palestinians can't have a ceasefire without getting what they need, the ability to move around and have goods come in, as if either the world are idiots or he's an idiot, because the blockade is in place because Hamas has been importing rockets and concrete to build tunnels. And why would he care what Hamas wants anyway? They're a terrorist group. So what am I listening to here?
You said it, brother. I mean, so I was actually a reporter for the Jerusalem Post. I've been on the ground, and I have to say, he is, when he says, like you said, Palestinians, he's lumping in the West Bank and Gaza, completely different groups. And you look at the administration in the West Bank compared to Gaza, night and day. And what's happening in Gaza is there are extremists, murderers who their founding charter explicitly says we want to kill Jews. That is their mission in life. They want to destroy the state of Israel. So it's mind-blowing that John Kerry thinks somehow that those are the type of people that he can work with. And in fact, Hamas reportedly killed 160 children in order to build their tunnels. They used child labor to build these tunnels. It's really horrific.
Rick?
You know, I hardly know where to start here. First of all, I don't know what Kerry's talking about and throwing the West Bank into that. I don't think the West Bank and Israel are requiring a ceasefire right now. I think it's just Gaza where that's required. What you both seem to fail to understand is that there are Palestinians living on the Gaza Strip who don't support Hamas. John Kerry's not thinking about making Hamas happy. He's thinking about trying to do something to end the deaths that are taking place to innocent people. I think I can safely say that both of you are not big supporters of President Obama. And yet you're Americans, even though you don't support the president. You didn't vote for him. You don't support him. Why do you imagine that everybody who lives in Gaza supports Hamas? In fact, we know from polls that they don't. So
really? What poll is that they don't support Hamas?
There's been, seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
I'll tell you what, Steve, you've had me back on this week because I'm not prepared to tell you which one, but there are many. Do you really think that everybody who lives in Gaza supports Hamas?
So did we take a poll during World War II and say which people? What does that got to do with it? This is war.
So
what would you
suggest?
No.
So let's just
what
kill
would
them all.
you suggest?
Let's kill them all.
What
Let's kill
would
all
you
the
suggest?
children. Let's just kill all the children, because even when we were in
Kill all the
World
children.
War II, we wanted to
well,
kill
then,
all the
Rick,
kids.
I would suggest that Hamas, the elected government,
they are not elected. You're
me?
wrong. They are not. I'm sorry. Let me speak.
Hamas was
you
not
wrong.
elected. This
no,
is a
they were
newsflash.
not. Well, I got news for you. They were not
Carrie?
elected. Let me speak.
Yeah.
They actually elected the other government, and Hamas got into a war with Fatah, and Hamas won. The Hamas government was not elected on the West Bank, and in Gaza, and this is just the kind of
Where
stuff
was the war?
you guys
who
throw out
fought
there.
a war? Who fought a war?
Carrie, you want to help me out here since it's a fact?
Look,
I think you'll tell a fact.
I want to say that I do agree that there are some people in Gaza who
Would you agree
don't
that
agree
Hamas
with
was
Hamas.
not elected in the Gaza Strip to lead? Please.
I don't think that's relevant.
Well,
I
but
think
Steve's making a big fuss out of this, and it's not true.
Hamas are the elected
No, they are
officials
not.
That's why there has been no Arab Spring in Gaza. The Arab Spring has toppled dictators. Yes, you can question the effectiveness and what's filled that vacuum, but in a lot of places the people stood up and said, enough is enough. We don't want dictators. We don't want this ideology. And so if the people of Gaza wanted this, if they wanted to force them out, they could. And instead, they're spending money trying to destroy Israel instead of trying to build their own population.
Wait,
That's the problem.
who's spending the money trying to destroy
Gaza.
Israel, Carrie?
And that's money that they're getting from the Arab.
who in
You know
Gaza?
what really upsets me is the supposedly moderate Arab states like Turkey and Qatar. Like
They hate
they
Hamas,
say they're
most of them.
moderate, but they're funding a murderous regime that would rather sacrifice its own children as human shields.
Qatar
and as,
certainly is, but not Saudi Arabia, not most of the other
No, I
Arab
said
states as
Turkey.
it happens.
Turkey and Qatar.
So-
Well, I want to know from Rick. So what should Israel do?
Israel is doing what they have to do. You know, you conflate and you make the mistake that just because somebody acknowledges what's actually happening, that they must be for one side or another.
You just said keep killing the children.
You
You
keep
just said
interrupting
that.
me, so I don't know how I've gotten to say
I've
anything.
been interrupting you?
You did. You're interrupting me right now. Let me finish answering the question. I do support Israel in this battle. Hamas is the one that started lobbing the rockets in. You lob a rocket at my house, I'm going to lob 10 back at your house. But the reason you try and get a ceasefire is because there are innocents being killed. I don't
But
care.
you know
I don't
what,
care
Rick?
if they
The
kill every Hamas
Israelis
member
agreed to
who
a
ever lived.
ceasefire. The Israelis agreed to a ceasefire
Yes, they
brokered
did.
by Egypt.
And Hamas created one, and they broke it
All right,
themselves.
now you're interrupting Carrie.
I'm
Let her
agreeing with her.
finish.
I'm agreeing with her.
But that's still interrupting. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, we had a ceasefire that Egypt, who in the past has been a successful broker, Israel agreed to the outlines of a ceasefire from Egypt, and it was Hamas that snubbed their noses. And so now John Kerry's trying to stick his nose in this when Egypt was, like I said, has been much more effective than John Kerry or frankly any American administration has been.
I don't know how you can call Egypt effective since it worked, but I certainly appreciated the effort. But at the same time, it's even worse than that, Carrie, because Hamas suggested a humanitarian ceasefire, and they broke it themselves. Israel went along with it. You're missing my point completely. You can try and paint me in a corner of being supportive of Hamas, but anybody who knows me or anything I've ever said or written knows that just ain't the case.
You said so they
I
should
think
keep
there are a
killing
bunch.
the
No,
children.
Steve,
That's what you
want to let
said.
me say what I said, or you want to interrupt?
You have been talking more than me.
Well, then
My
don't ask me the
goodness.
question. Then
All right,
don't ask me the
we'll be
question.
right back with the panel part 2 of the panel, and we'll maybe change the topic, maybe not.
No, don't.
Coming back with Rick and Carrie on the Steve Malzberg Show, panel part 2, only on Newsmax Television.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? You need the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. A system that cleans practically anything and everything with super absorbent microfiber. Dip it in the washer side and the mess releases into the bucket. Then place it in the dryer side and push on a pedal. You get a clean mop pad that's practically dry and ready for more. And your hands will never again touch a dirty, disgusting mop. The heads are washable and reusable. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our 2-for-1 Pick It Up special and get a second Spin Mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-518-3953 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call now at 1-800-518-3953.
Well, they say it wouldn't last long, and they were right. I'm Miranda Kahn, and topping your Newsmax Now update. After a brief break of peace over the weekend, the fighting between Israeli security forces and Hamas militants resumes. The Israeli military reports it struck 2 rocket launchers held at a rocket manufacturing facility in Gaza. The Israeli invasion persists in response to rocket attacks being fired into their country from Gaza. The strike came after a 12-hour pause in the fighting. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke on the developing situation in Israel and Gaza today. Ban calls for an end to violence in the name of humanity. He's urging both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Khalid Mashal to end the suffering. Ban adds that the actions of Israel's military raise serious questions about proportionality. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update. Let's go back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we are back with the panel here on the Steve Malzberg Show, and we are going to continue. We're not talking about the Middle East because the conversation started with a soundbite, a video of John Kerry not only talking about a ceasefire, but then saying after the ceasefire, we need to address the concerns of the Palestinians, meaning Hamas, because they're the people involved in this battle. And those concerns are opening the borders to let the supplies in. Now, the blockade is in place from Egypt and Israel because the terrorist government there are terrorists, and they import rockets and tunnels. Egypt has closed the tunnels going in from Gaza to Egypt. By the way, Egypt doesn't open their border to let the Palestinian people into their country either. So there must be some to the fact that Hamas runs a terrorist state on Gaza. They inherited a peaceful piece of land with the philanthropy of Jewish philanthropists from the U.S. who put hundreds of millions of dollars in greenhouses and infrastructure. And you know what the Palestinians did the day they got Gaza? They destroyed it all. And now they have a terrorist state. That's what Hamas is. Are there good people there? Yeah, but you know what? It's not the good people that are killing Israeli civilians and letting them live in fear day after day after day. We should have invited Osama bin Laden to the peace table by this logic. We should have said, hey, we're not going to bomb Afghanistan because they won't give us Osama bin Laden after they killed 3,000 Americans. You know what we should do? We don't want to hurt children. Let's all sit at the table and address our needs. Carrie, doesn't that sound like an analogous situation?
You said we weren't going to talk about it.
Yeah, I think Osama bin Laden would have been great to have tea. He probably would have liked some mint tea, maybe some green tea with a little honey. I think that sounds perfect. Perfect analogy.
Rick?
It would have worked.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You don't? Okay.
She's talking about tea. What are you talking about?
I said we should just.
All I heard was we weren't going to talk about it anymore. I thought that meant that I wasn't.
All right,
then
we'll move on. Let's talk about this then. If the election were held today, according to CNN, Mitt Romney would beat Barack Obama by 9 points. That's up from the handful of points about a month or so ago. Carrie, what's going on here? I mean, buyer's remorse in the extreme.
Oh, absolutely. Voters are understanding that Romney was right. He was on the economy. He was right about Russia. And that's finally coming home to roost. I know what Rick's going to say because he's going to point out in the same poll that voters said if the elections were held today, they would vote for Hillary Clinton 55 to 42. And so I will take the words out of his mouth and I will say, I hope that voters understand that Hillary Clinton is part of Team Obama. So I don't understand how they can make that disassociation in their mind since she was the mouthpiece for the Obama foreign policy. Everything that we have today, the Middle East collapsing, problems with Russia, she was the one who created this.
I want to give Rick a chance because we got less than a minute left. We got about 50 seconds. Go ahead.
Sure.
Well, Carrie, if you already know what I'm going to say, I don't really need to be here, do I? But if you're going to guess what I'm going to have to say, it's probably best that you get it right because that actually, you made the point yourself. You just, thank you, pointed out the illogic of it when you compare him to Hillary and Hillary comes out ahead and you compare him to Obama and comes out behind and then you say it's Team Obama, that equals a big question mark. What I was actually going to say was, you know what we don't know? We don't know where Mitt Romney would be if he were president today. I'm shocked that it was only a couple of points or 9 points. I would have thought he'd come out even higher ahead. But yet he hasn't had to govern for the past couple of years.
All right, fair enough
well,
point. Carrie, we got to go. Carrie
Oh,
Sheffield
okay.
and Rick Unger. Very spirited debate, and thank you for being on the panel. And we'll be back with the president of the Catholic League. But first, this hour's American Moment, taking a look at the making of the Camp David Peace Accords, ironically enough.
It's a region of the world that has known little peace since the beginnings of recorded history. But in September of 1978, President Sadat of Egypt, Prime Minister Begin of Israel, and President Carter of the United States set out to change that. Initiated by the Egyptian leader's proclamation that he would be willing to travel anywhere, even Jerusalem, to seek peace, President Carter persuaded the two former enemies to meet with him at Camp David to seek a lasting peace. On the 17th of September, 1978, the Camp David Accords were signed, returning the Sinai to Egypt and creating a framework by which Palestinians could have autonomous and self-governing control over the West Bank and Gaza. During the announcement, President Carter was clear more work needed to be done.
The questions that have brought warfare and bitterness to the Middle East for the last 30 years will not be settled overnight.
In 1978, President Anwar Sadat and Prime Minister Menachem Begin were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Jimmy Carter's Nobel Prize would come later in 2002 for his decades of work seeking solutions to international conflicts. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
This will hit Americans harder than anything since the Great Depression. Over the past 26 years, our research firm has guided over 1 million investors. We predicted 5 major events over the past decade. In 2002, we advised our clients to buy gold-related investments when gold traded under $300 an ounce. In 2006, we begged investors to get out of the housing market before it plunged. We were among the first to predict the recession of 2007. We predicted the stock market crash of 2008. Finally, we turned bullish on stocks in 2009 and drove the Dow from 6,440 to over 16,000, a gain of over 10,000 points. Our first 5 predictions have come true. Now we're issuing critical warning number 6. Most people won't like what we have to say. They'll find it hard to believe. until they see all the facts we present them online at criticalwarning6.com. Go to criticalwarning6.com now. criticalwarning6.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really?
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
To find out more, call 800-263-4151. That's 800-263-4151.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, I spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Well, I think it's even more basic than that, I'm really sorry to say. I think there's just a certain amount of Jew hatred in the media, especially in the elite media, that cannot be overcome or explained away. There's just the media in this country for a very long time has been contemptuous of Jews and contemptuous of Jewish life. And this was true during the Holocaust, when the media was largely controlled by old-line, wealthy, white Protestant males. And it's true now when it's controlled mostly by left-wingers. So there's just, we've moved from right-wing anti-Semitism to left-wing anti-Semitism, and of course they try to pretend it's not anti-Semitism, it's really anti-Israel, but it's really anti-Semitism.
All right, folks, Ben Stein on this show just last week, and I played that for a reason. Joining us now is our friend, Newsmax contributor and president of the Catholic League, the one, the only, Bill Donahue. Welcome, sir.
How you doing, Steve? Thank you for having me.
Always great to have you. All right, I played that because of I believe it's true. I think we're seeing it with the coverage of this Israel-Hamas war. It's as if the media doesn't realize that Hamas are terrorists.
Well, you know, I not only agree with Ben, I would take it a step further. Irving Kristol used to refer to them as the new class, and by that he meant the people who disseminated ideas in the publishing world, in the media, the entertainment industry, certainly in the academy, I would say K right through graduate school, the people who shape public opinion. And they are decidedly on the left. My friend Stanley Rothenberg did some of the greatest work on this subject, more than anybody, him and Amy Black, and they were able to show, without question, the left-wing stride of the people in the media. And of course, yes, I mean, the people on the left are very much the greatest opponents of Israel, and shame on them.
Yeah, no, and you know what? One of the things I wanted you here for today, besides the Pope, and we'll get to that in a second, to talk about, and you know, you and I have discussed this how many times, but I had Bill Richardson on, and I could just as easily have played you that soundbite as well. And Bill Richardson said he'd like to see the UN Human Rights Commission do less scolding of Israel and be less concerned with Israel and be more concerned with the Christian persecution going on all over the world, specifically in Iraq. And he also said the same of our State Department.
Well, that's true. We have something like 1.2 million Christians in Iraq in 2003, and they're down to about 400,000. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what has happened. Pew Research, and they're pretty good. They're pretty neutral. They don't really tilt left or right. They came out here recently and said that Christians are being persecuted more than any religious group in the world in 151 nations. That's 3/4 of the world's population. You know, we got a new N-word now, which nobody wants to talk about. It's called Nazarene. And that's what they're doing in Iraq. They are branding the big N on the homes of Iraqi Christians so that they know which ones to destroy. And where is our president on this issue? I can't find him.
Why is that? Well, why do you think that is? I'll give you another quote from another guest, Ralph Peters, who you're probably very familiar with from Fox News, said that the President of the United States considers Jews and Christians the bad guys.
Well, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with this thoroughgoing secularism. I made a comment here a number of years ago, and I still think it's worth thinking about. It's just a little anecdote, but it tells me a great deal. In 2007, in a People magazine interview, Michelle and Barack both admitted that they do not celebrate Christmas with their own children. They do not believe in Christmas. They do not believe in gifts and exchanges of that nature. And I said to some of my colleagues at the time, you know, on the one hand, that's his business, obviously, but it's a window into his thinking. And what you get with secularists, and I saw them as a professor for many, many years, they are either hostile to Christianity and to Judaism, or at the very best, you might say, is that they're somewhat indifferent. But how else do you explain the fact that the Congress has spoken up on the murder of Christians? You've seen the Pope, you've seen even the head of the United Nations, a few people from the State Department, but where is the President of the United States? To this end, I am taking out an op-ed page ad in the New York Times on Monday, September the 15th, the day before the UN General Assembly opens, to call more attention to this issue. But I really want to ask our president, when is he finally going to speak out about this horror?
And the horror is something that's been going on not only since the emergence, if you will, into public view of ISIS and the caliphate that's now been formed there. And the horror stories, Bill, as you well know better than I, the horror stories of convert or get beheaded and convert or pay a fee, or, you know, it's just outrageous. How does the world... And again, you and I have spoken about this, and I'll ask you again. And you know, I have no right to criticize because I'm Jewish, but I wish that Christians would speak out as much as I do about the persecution of Christians, and that's something I don't understand.
Well, the good news is that they are starting to. Why they've taken so long to come out of the starting blocks, I don't know. The passivity is obscene, but there are some signs that finally people have kind of got it on this issue. And, you know, we're looking at the mass murder. Now, you do find persecution of Christians in communist China. You find it in North Korea, clearly. But what's even more perverse to me, and I have to say this, the only place where Christians are being murdered in the name of God are in Muslim-run nations. That happens to be true. There's something seriously wrong here, people. If this were Christians or Jews doing what Muslims are doing to Christians and Jews, there would be absolute outrage. There's a tolerance when it comes to Muslim barbarism against Jews and Christians, which I think the people on the left need to start explaining themselves. My own theory is they're not exactly fond of America. Remember Jean Kirkpatrick? She said, the hate America first gang. They've only gotten worse.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Pope, let's turn to the Pope. And I believe he's recently spoken out to an extent about, about the Christian slaughter and persecution.
Absolutely. There's no question he has. He's been calling attention to it quite a bit. So I'm okay with the Pope. I'm even okay with the head of the UN. And then you've got Frank Wolf in the Congress and Fortenberry and others. I just don't know where President Obama is on this issue. Now, again, if it's one thing to be indifferent, you can't be indifferent in the face of this mass murder when you have Muslim-majority nations in practically every single one of them. They're telling Christians, you have until midnight to either convert or we will kill you. I mean, the beheading is commonplace. I just can't imagine if Christians were doing this in reverse or Jews were doing this, what the reaction would be. But look what's going on with Hamas. I mean, here's a terrorist state destroying Jews, taking money built for kindergartners, used as tunnels so they can go in and blow up people. I mean, Netanyahu and others have exercised incredible restraint in not going after the terrorists where they can in the Gaza. Instead, they pass out leaflets. How many leaflets have been passed out by these barbarians in Gaza to Jews, telling them, by the way, we don't want to hurt any innocent people, so we're going to have some retaliatory strikes this afternoon? I don't think there's been one in all of history.
It really is amazing that we're talking about Hamas, and you have our Secretary of State and our President saying immediate ceasefire, which benefits Hamas, and then we'll sit down and talk with all sides about their grievances, which benefits Hamas. I can't even fathom what's going on. But let's talk about the Pope. He has a trip planned to the United States, September of 2015. I know that he'll be in Philadelphia. Talk about that, the reason for it, and might we expect him to add cities to that list?
Well, there's definitely he's coming over because Archbishop Chaput was a great man, one of the great leaders of the Catholic Church. I'm good friends with him. He's the Archbishop of Philadelphia, and he invited him over to deal with families, the World Families Day. But, you know, the proximity, of course, from Philly to New York and Washington is very tempting, particularly since the Pope will be over here when the UN General Assembly is open. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does, in fact, address the UN General Assembly and perhaps even the Congress. Maybe we'll see even a mass at Yankee Stadium. I don't know about this. I haven't heard anything on the inside, quite frankly, about it, or the plans are just coming together. But again, the same people who are out there singing the praise of Hamas and against Israel, they're going to be out there condemning the Pope. So I imagine we're going to be very busy at that time, Steve.
No, absolutely. And how's his health? I mean, I do want to talk about what he said at St. Peter's Square, but there hadn't been any more updates on his health. Last time you were here, about 2-3 weeks ago,
right,
there were a lot of reports that it was failing in some respects.
Well, what had happened is that I got some of those reports a little bit earlier on, and I haven't heard anything more recent than that. I do know going back a couple of months ago, there were definite signs of fatigue, and he's 77, and he has a hard schedule, and actually he's one of those world leaders who actually works for a living.
He was at a diner the other day. I saw a picture of him eating at a diner.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I call him the populist Pope. I mean, there's no question about it.
Do you fear that diminishes the papacy at all?
No, I don't think so. I think that if it became commonplace, it would. But I think here and there, I think he's trying to show that he's a man of the people and wants to touch the people.
He's done that, absolutely.
And I think that as long as it's done reasonably and judiciously, it'll redound to his favor.
Yeah, and of course he was in St. Peter's Square marking the 100th anniversary of the outbreak of World War I, and he cited what's going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and he called for a no more war. Don't repeat the mistake, which is pretty typical, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think all the great world leaders will agree with him on that. In one sense, it's nothing particularly unusual. What I must say, though, I still want to see Muslim leaders. Where are they with this carnage against the Christian people and Jews going on in the Middle East? It's nonstop barrage. And I've heard from other people. I haven't heard from the president, and I haven't heard from Muslim leaders.
All right. The great Bill Donahue, ladies and gentlemen, president of the Catholic League, Newsmax contributor. As always, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Always great to talk to you. All right, folks, we're coming back, and we're going to round out the hour with Gimme 5, and it's coming your way right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
When you break down or need help fast, there's AAA and there's Auto Vantage. Let's see who has the advantage. AAA Plus covers you for up to a 100-mile radius. So for a 150-mile tow, it could cost you up to $200 out of pocket. With Auto Vantage, you're covered up to 150 miles at no additional charge. Advantage, Auto Vantage. With Auto Vantage Locate Me technology, we'll find you with GPS by leveraging all the largest cellular carriers in America and provide you with professional roadside assistance. With AAA's Find Me service, they can find you with GPS, but only if you're calling with certain carriers. Or you can call, explain the intersection where you broke down, and hope you described your location correctly. Advantage, Auto Vantage. Auto Vantage provides lockout assistance of not just your car, but your home as well, which could cost you $50 or more each time. Plus, you'll get access to our certified mechanics hotline for repair advice and to tell you what real service costs should be. So if you're considering renewing or joining AAA, stop and take advantage of our 25 years of quality service in all 50 states. Just call or log on and see our head-to-head comparison against AAA and why it makes sense to switch today. Like hundreds of other benefits and discounts we offer at more than 20,000 Auto Vantage certified service centers, hotels, and car rentals. Now get ready for the best part. For a family of 4 drivers, AAA Plus could cost you $139 or more per year. Auto Vantage, $69.99. We cover you and every member of your immediate family at no additional charge, whether they're home or away. That's just the right thing to do. Advantage, Auto Vantage. Call or log on now.
Call 1-800-735-4186. That's 1-800-735-4186 or log on to www.tryautovantage.com.
I met St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
It has been the Israeli strategy for at least the last decade to basically dismantle the tunnels and to eradicate the rockets. And they actually call it mowing the lawn every couple of years. The thing is, this siege now, the former ambassador to the U.S. from Israel, Michael Oren, is basically saying the U.S. should help Israel eradicate Hamas. I think that is a false premise. The more you bomb Gaza, you're never going to eliminate the resistance there. In fact, you will increase the resistance. More rockets can be acquired, more tunnels can be built. And so in getting a ceasefire, I think they have to get to the point where the Israelis are willing to lift, as Pat said, some of the conditions that they've imposed on Gaza.
Yeah, right. Okay. Welcome to Give Me Five. Eleanor Clift, the same person who said that our ambassador in Benghazi was not murdered. He died of smoke inhalation. Remember that context I'm setting for you there. All right, folks, more from Eleanor Clift on the McLaughlin Group.
The Israelis apparently want to be able to leave troops along the border. I don't know if that's reasonable or not to militarize the border, but you've got to give Gaza something in return for that, and I gather that's what they're negotiating along these lines.
Yeah, you got to give the terrorist Hamas something, right? Because they started a war. Like Al-Qaeda started with us, and if Al-Qaeda made demands on us, Eleanor Clift would be saying, you got to give them something, right? You can't just keep shooting at them. You got to give them something. Here's more.
Hamas is another word for the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas have no sympathy for Israel on any level, and the Israelis know it. They know that they have been threatened by these people forever, and they will continue to be threatened by them. This is not a group where you can deal with them in any kind of serious way. The Israelis think the only way they can deal with them is to make it clear that if they do this, there's going to be enough of a reaction, enough pain inflicted upon them, that they will defer from doing this at least for some serious period of time. That's what the Israelis are all about.
You go, Mort. You go. Mort understands what's going on here. It is just day after day. Again, I don't know if it's hatred of Jews or hatred of Zionists or hatred of Israel or rooting for the underdog, even if they're terrorists who kill civilians on purpose. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe. Here's more from the McLaughlin Group.
There's a real risk for the Israelis as well, because with the Europeans and others' world opinion, except the United States, of sanctions and disinvestment, and the Palestinians going to the UN, getting them sanctioned as alleged war criminals and all that. So there is a losses for the Israelis as well as, but the Palestinians are being hammered.
Do you know about the tunnels?
Yes, I do. The tunnels.
How many miles of tunnels are underground?
The Israelis have every reason to be frightened of tunnels that are 3 miles long coming out of Gaza into Israel more than the ones going into Egypt.
Yeah, there are some going into Egypt as well. Oh, here's Eleanor Clift again, in case you missed her.
No one is questioning Israel's right to defend itself and to have security, but the use of force now has become disproportionate, and they are inflaming on the West Bank, too. There was a peaceful demonstration there of 10,000 people. I think Israel has to ask itself, even if you do eradicate Hamas, what takes its place? It would just be another version of Hamas.
Right, so why didn't we sit down and talk to Al-Qaeda and bring Osama to the White House? Because, you know, now we got ISIS out of Al-Qaeda. So we should have let Al-Qaeda just cut a deal with them. I'm sure Eleanor Cliff would have liked that more.
Israel's weak point is world opinion.
That's right.
And what's fueling world opinion?
Whatever happens, this is something that has happened over and over again. This is not the first time this has happened. Whenever Israel tries to retaliate and to try and deal with Hamas, at some point the world says Israel cannot do this.
Why?
Why? Because they don't want to have any fighting.
Because
they don't
they're
want to
dead children.
I'll tell you what's going to cause...
And because they're dead children. Eleanor Cliff, I know we've never killed children in a war. Nobody's ever killed children in a war. Only the big bad Jews of Israel killed children in a war. More.
I'll tell you what's going to cause them serious problems, and that is the disproportionate casualty rate. It's horrible.
Yes, without question, these things are disproportionate, but the Israelis cannot live under the continued threats that they have had from the Hamas people, from the Muslim Brotherhood people.
You don't think world opinion is going to assemble itself?
No, I think it is assembling itself. That's exactly the issue, that Israel is a constraint.
The heck with world opinion on the Steve Malzberg Show.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card. And qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our health care. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Miranda Khan, and we begin your Newsmax Now update in Israel. That's where Israeli military authorities report a Hamas mortar attack, claiming the lives of at least 4 soldiers in southern Israel. They say 5 others died in a separate attack in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry urges for humanitarian ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. The top official says he hopes for an end to the violence to honor the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan today.
We believe the momentum generated by a humanitarian ceasefire is the best way to be able to begin to negotiate and find out if you can put in place a sustainable ceasefire.
In the past, Kerry supported Israel's right to defend itself from Hamas rocket attacks and added that a ceasefire must include disarming Hamas. Well, heavy fighting continues to stall the investigation into the downing of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. Investigators from the Netherlands and Australia were once again forced to abandon the crash site today because of sounds of heavy explosions nearby. The plane crashed into rebel-held territory in eastern Ukraine. All 298 people on board were killed in that crash. Russia's foreign prime minister dismisses U.S. intelligence claims that rockets were fired into Ukraine from within Russia's borders. The official made his statement in response to the U.S. releasing satellite images to back up those claims. He questions why it took 10 days, though, for those images to be released. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your latest Newsmax Now update. Back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we kick off the hour with the one and only Dr. Ben Carson, excuse me, former chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins, and he'll be here to discuss the children on the border and the plight of Iraqi Christians and much, much more. Don't miss it. Douglas Holtz-Aiken, former director of the CBO and president of the American Action Forum. We're going to talk about President Obama's latest efforts to stop companies from going overseas with tax loopholes. Congressman Steve King will be here, member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security, and we'll get his take on the border crisis, and also he will share his dire prediction of what might happen if President Obama unilaterally grants amnesty to 6 million illegals in this country. All that, give me 5 and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Folks, I'm gonna have more on this after the interviews at the top of the hour here. Benjamin Netanyahu speaking today, saying that it looks like there's going to be more of a protracted campaign. Hamas killing several Israelis, some soldiers, some civilians earlier today. And if you were watching the panel earlier in the show, you heard Rick Unger and I go at it over Hamas and how they came to power in Gaza. And I do want to state for the record that Hamas, yes, indeed, was elected in 2006. They took over after Israel had given them the Gaza Strip. We'll go into depth in that a little bit more later in this hour. But first, let's watch this.
Nor did it give pause to the adults who hurled objects and insults at 6-year-old Ruby Bridges on the day she became the first African-American child to desegregate in elementary school. And so, when we look to children seeking safety at our borders and see instead an invasion to be defended against, a contagion to be contained, or a drain on resources that we just don't want to share, that is a side of history on which we are choosing to stand.
All right, folks, there she goes again, Melissa Harris Perry on MSNBC. And joining us now is Dr. Ben Carson, former chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Children's Center and author of One Nation, What We Could All Do to Save America's Future. Hello, doctor.
Hi, how you doing?
Good to talk to you. I hope you were able to hear Melissa Harris Perry there bringing up this whole analogy to what's going on at the border with the children, to the children during the time of the civil rights struggle, and the hoses and the dogs. I mean, when you see that and hear that, what do you think?
Well, I'm glad that she's concerned about that, but the way I kind of look at it is there, you know, I grew up in inner city Detroit, inner city Boston, and I'm very familiar with the life in those situations. And there are a lot of kids in those situations even today who are in pretty awesome shape. So what I think I would do is I would find out from the people who live in those areas and who live in Appalachia and live in some of the really depressed areas of our country. Are they okay with us taking our resources and spending them on those people? If they are, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, you know that those people, lots of people in Chicago and other areas, Houston, and we've heard from a lot of African Americans that have been talking about the fact that they care mainly about their plight and not about as much the kids on the border. In fact, there's a poll out showing today a huge majority. It's an economist slash YouGov.com survey. 77%, doctor, say send the illegals home, and 81% say that this is a serious issue.
It is a serious issue. And, you know, the fact of the matter is there are much more logical ways to handle it. You know, we could help, you know, Honduras and Guatemala and all these other places build some centers in their own homes. If there are children there who really are refugees, those children can go there. And they can be supported there until such time as they are claimed by a parent or a guardian, or some other arrangement is made for their care. Why should they have to make a treacherous journey where, in many cases, there's abuse and great violence?
So you're saying that the United States should be proactive in these countries, helping set up shelters and you know and just keeping the families together in their host countries. Is that what you're saying?
Keeping them there. We already provide significant financial aid to those countries. Now we can just dictate that aid is for this purpose.
All right. So when you know, we talked in the last hour with Senator Jeff Sessions about what the president might do. I mean, you know, Doctor, you're well aware that he's talking about an executive order, or the administration is talking about an executive order that he might issue in the next couple of weeks that would grant basically blanket amnesty to 6 million people that are here in this country.
Well, that's exactly why we have divided government. And at some point, people are going to have to step up to the plate and say, you know, we're not going to take this, and stop being worried about whether people are going to blame them. I think people are going to blame us if they don't do something.
You think people will blame us if we don't do something? So, but you don't want the president to do what he's threatening to do.
There's a lot of things I don't want him to do. It doesn't seem to have much bearing on things. You know, he pretty much is doing whatever he wants to do because he's not meeting a great deal of resistance. And, you know, it's kind of funny because Putin's playing the same game with him. Putin's not meeting a lot of resistance from him, so he's pretty much doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, the only ones who can't do what they want to do are the Israelis, apparently.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about a situation that's going on, and that's the persecution of Christians around the world. Specifically, now the focus should be on Iraq. There's not a lot of focus on it. Why do you think that the slaughtering, the genocide of Christians in the year 2014 gets just about zero media attention and gets zero attention from the lips of the President of the United States?
Because they don't care. You know, in many cases, you know, they consider Christians a nuisance. So if something's happening to them, too bad. They just don't care. It really gives you some insight into the thinking. And the fact of the matter is, this nation should be front and center, standing up against the wanton slaughter of people because of their religion. It doesn't matter what their religion is. They could be anything. The fact that we stand silently by and let people be slaughtered is antithetical to the principles of our nation. There's just no way we should be silent on those issues.
Well, you talk about they don't care, and they view, you know, a lot of them view the Christians as this or that, and you were talking about the media, but, you know, Ralph Peters of the Fox News channel was on with us the other day, and he said that the president, in his opinion, views Jews and Christians as the bad guys. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure whether he views them as the bad guys or he just doesn't care. But both of those things are pretty awful. And they say awful things about us as a nation, that we've allowed ourselves to get to this point. And if we don't care about what's happening to, you know, Christians in those nations, what are we going to do when it starts happening in this nation? Well, it's really quite a chilling thought.
It absolutely is a chilling time, without a doubt. Let me ask you two more questions. There's been talk, you talked about a president who just wouldn't care what you have to say about what he should do and doesn't seem to care what many people say about what he should do. And you talk about different branches of government. There have been many now throwing the word impeachment around. Some, I mean, the administration themselves. The White House spokesman said the other day that he thinks the president may be impeached, which is kind of unusual for a White House to say. Do you believe that that should be an option if the president gives a blanket pardon to 6 million illegals, for instance?
Well, certainly I think it's a discussion that's worth having. It needs to be discussed in a very serious way with legal scholars on both sides of the argument. It's not something that should be entered in an emotional way, but we should ask ourselves, has the Constitution been violated? Have high crimes and misdemeanors been committed? If so, what are they? And if they can be laid out in an unmistakable way, then absolutely it would be appropriate to proceed. Otherwise, the people have the ability to somewhat put the cuffs on this administration in November with an overwhelming showing and switching to a Senate majority leader who might in fact be willing to bring up the hundreds of bills that have been passed for the purpose of reinvigorating the economy and taking care of many of the problems that sit fallow on Harry Reid's desk.
Yeah, over 300.
Doesn't want to do anything.
Yeah, over 300 bills passed by the do-nothing, quote-unquote, House. Let me ask you one more. I saw a story the other day that now you're inclined to run for president. Where are you? Because last time we talked, you said it would be up to God, and even if God decided you should run, you wouldn't want to run. So tell me where you are.
Well, I'm listening. I'm in the listening process.
So would you say that's a step closer than you were from the last time we talked?
It is a step closer. I have to consider what's going on, and I have to consider the enormous crowds that I encounter every place I go and the level of enthusiasm and what I'm hearing. But I also have to see what happens in November. Is our nation going to indicate that they, in fact, are waking up and that they are ready to move forward again? Or are we going to continue this long downward slide into a fundamental change? And depending on what they indicate, it will inform me a lot what I should do.
Would taking back the Senate give you that nudge over to decide to run, possibly?
What about the Senate?
Yeah, if they take it back, would that be a help for you in deciding to run?
Absolutely.
Yep. Doctor, always great to talk to you, and everybody make sure that you get your copy of Dr. Carson's New York Times #1 best-selling book, One Nation, What We Can All Do to Save America's Future, or go to newsmax.com/Ben. That's newsmax.com/Ben to get your free copy. Always love talking to the good doctor. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Take care now.
Speak to you soon. Up next, folks, the former director of the CBO. Don't miss it on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Look how beautiful it is.
Honey, we need to talk.
We do. I took the trash out.
I know, and thank you so much for that. I think we should get a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
Right now?
Whether you're new to Medicare or not, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. It's up to you to pay the difference. So think about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay.
I did a little research. With a Medicare supplement plan, you'll be able to stay with your doctor.
Oh, you know, I love that guy.
These types of plans let you visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients, and there are no networks.
Is this a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
No, there are lots of plan options. It all depends on what we need and how much we want to spend.
Call now to request your free decision guide. It could help you find an AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
What happens when we travel?
The plans go with us, anywhere in the country.
I like that.
You know what else? United Healthcare Insurance Company has years and years of experience. What do you say?
I'm in.
Join the millions already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP. Remember, all Medicare supplement plans help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could really save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose your own doctor or hospital as long as they accept Medicare patients. And with these plans, there could be low or no copays.
You do your push-ups today?
Prepare to be amazed.
Don't wait. Call today to request your free decision guide and find the AARP Medicare supplement plan to go the distance with you. Go long.
On Newsmax TV, Vladimir Putin is starting a new Cold War, and Obama won't stop him. Find out the surprising reason why. Watch J.D. Hayworth on America's Forum to find out Putin's real plan. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Our country has recovered faster and come farther than almost any other advanced nation on earth. But there's another trend that threatens to undermine the progress you've helped to make. Even as corporate profits are as high as ever, a small but growing group of big corporations are fleeing the country to get out of paying taxes. They're keeping most of their business inside the United States, but they're basically renouncing their citizenship and declaring that they're based someplace else just to avoid paying their fair share.
All right, it's not fair, their fair share. You know the routine by now. Welcome back. Joining us now is Douglas Holtz-Aiken. He is the former director of the CBO, and he currently is president of the American Action Forum. That's AmericanActionForum.org. Douglas, great to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, the president now, making bad guys out of corporations. Again, this populist spiel of his, I haven't heard it in a while. Now he's taking it in a slightly different direction, and that's corporations that are moving overseas. He wants to make it illegal. Can he do that? And first of all, is he right about what he's saying?
Well, first of all, when the president pivots back to the economy, it usually means that he's got problems elsewhere. And in this case, he's got them all over the globe. So we're back to yelling at big U.S. corporations. Let's remember what these deals are. First and foremost, these are good business deals with intrinsic benefits to the shareholders. You've got a Medtronic broadening its product base and having access to hospitals by acquiring COVID. And you've got AbbVie, which has one drug that produces 60% of its sales. It's going to need more. It acquires a smaller growth company to get access to those things in the pipeline. This is the kind of business that goes on all the time. But the minute you have the acquisition, you start running the numbers, our tax code is so antiquated and out of step that they're forced to put the headquarters abroad. It is in their financial interest, no question. But remember this, it is not what the president said. They will pay every dollar of their U.S. corporation income tax on U.S. profits. All that's going on here is we have firms with earnings offshore that they want to get access to. If they bring them back as a U.S. company, they pay a 35% tax on them. If they do it after an inversion, they can bring them back, finance their operations, hire people, and expand. So this is really a very misleading pitch the president's up to.
Yeah, well, calling these things loopholes instead of deductions. Loopholes makes it sound like it's illegal, but this is perfectly legal, is it not?
100% legal, 100% driven by the desire to get their hands on trillions of dollars that are parked offshore and grow their businesses. We should be in favor of having these firms expand and hire people. That's a good news story for the United States. The main culprit here is the U.S. corporation income tax, which is the top rate, higher than anyone else in the developed world, and a broader base. We tax the worldwide earnings of firms when most countries just tax what they earn inside their borders. And the result is really quite damaging to the U.S. When a U.S. firm competes with a German firm in, say, Brazil, the German firm pays Brazilian taxes and they're done.
Right.
The U.S. firm pays Brazilian taxes, then a second layer of tax back in the U.S., and they're at an immediate disadvantage, which means our workers don't get the sales, they don't get the business, they don't get the income and the jobs.
Should these corporations fear that, there's no way Congress is going to change this, not in the immediate future. Should corporations fear his pen?
I think corporations should be genuinely alarmed. The Democrats are going to try to cause a lot of populist stir on this in August, and if the Senate were to somehow, pass something, then there's a good chance it would get jammed through the House in the lame duck session. So, all of that's bad policy making. The president's proposal, in fact, is to say, look, you can't call yourself a foreign-owned corporation unless you actually put the management in the foreign country. Okay, so that just says not only will they do what they're doing now, they'll also send all the jobs overseas. So it's a very perverse response to this problem. I'd be afraid that the Congress gets weak-kneed and does something bad, or worse, the president picks up his pen, uses some executive authority, and does it himself.
That's what I'm worried. Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about it happening, more so than it getting slipped in somewhere. Let me ask you. The president was interviewed over the weekend on CNBC, I believe, and he was asked about the tax rates and how much is too much. You talk about taking more from people. Do you have a cutoff number? And he doesn't have a cutoff number.
No.
And then he goes into, of course, these loopholes, and anybody who takes advantage of it, and then he talks about billionaires shouldn't pay a lower rate than their secretary. Meanwhile, he's taking advantage of loopholes. He only pays 20-some-odd% on his income through loopholes, which are deductions and legal and ethical. He gifted his kids the maximum a few years back, which is a loophole. So he makes villains out of those who take advantage of the tax code. Well, he does the same thing.
Yeah, it's utterly hypocritical. There's no doubt about that. And let's remember, one person's loophole is some Congress's policy, and they were put there for a reason. So to somehow demagogue the people who take advantage of it in a legal fashion is really just disrespectful, in my view, of the process which produced the tax code. Having said that, there are two different things going on here. One is a corporation income tax, which is clearly, on a bipartisan basis, understood to be born in the 19th century and stuck there and needs to be modernized in a deep way. And then there's the individual income tax, which the president has no interest in cutting taxes for average Americans. He wants to raise taxes. So, let's at least get the business side cleaned up so that we can compete with France, for God's sake, because we can't right now.
Where do you see this economy going in his final 2.5 years? Just more of the same?
Look, it's likely to be more of the same. Everyone's eagerly awaiting the Wednesday GDP report and saying, gee, we could get 3.1, 3.2% growth in the second quarter. Guess what that means for the first half of 2014? Zero. Breaking even. And there's no upward momentum that I can discern, and as a result, we can expect more of the same unless the playbook gets changed. And I see no inclination on the part of this White House to change its playbook.
Yeah, and the housing market, I think today, that was a bad number today. And then the unemployment numbers come out again, and we just were on this treadmill, 200, a little less, a little more, and it's great, and jobs are created.
They're celebrating, right?
They're celebrating. Meanwhile, the jobs are non-paying, and people are leaving the workforce, and everybody's making half of what they made.
And to get 240,000 jobs, we have to have essentially zero or negative productivity growth. So, yeah, we're putting people to work, but they're getting progressively less prosperous in the process.
Douglas Holtz-Aiken, great to see you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Yeah, folks, it's not a good situation, and I have to tell you. And you look at the polls, the president and the left will express exuberance over the numbers that come out from time to time, saying that they've done this, they've done that. But you look at how the American people feel about the economy, where it's headed, where it is, where they are, and the numbers aren't good. The American dream is out of reach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even though it's been redefined by Barack Obama, no longer is it become a billionaire, baby, and succeed. Now it's have a nice house, have a nice job, have a little car. That's the new American dream under Barack Obama. All right, folks, we're coming back with much more of the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television.
I'll never forget that moment. The moment I realized I was overweight and I needed help. I remember thinking, I don't want to be this anymore. I was 50 pounds overweight. 50. I needed to do something about it. But what? I called Nutrisystem, the best option for me.
Now you can lose weight even faster with a Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem, and it's completely changed my life for the better.
Order your 28-day My Weight plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of amazing craving crusher shakes, plus 1 week of delicious meals, and it's all free.
Nutrisystem helped me get my life back, and 7 years later, I'm still a believer. Don't wait. Call now and make today the moment when you start looking and feeling great.
Call now, 877-293-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
Well, I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
I'm Miranda Khan, and we begin your Newsmax Now update in Africa, where President Obama says the world's prosperity depends on how prosperous the situation is there. The president relayed that message at the Young African Leaders Town Hall today. The group was founded in 2010 to encourage development and reform across the African continent. The address comes just a week before the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, where American officials will meet with leaders from across Africa. Federal appeals court strikes down Virginia's ban on same-sex marriage. The three-judge panel of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled today that the state's failing to recognize unions that are recognized in other states is unconstitutional. 2 Virginia men filed the lawsuit after a court denied them a marriage license. I'm Miranda Khan, and that was your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back. And earlier in the show, about an hour ago, we had the Malzberg panel, and we had Rick Unger, my friend from Steele and Unger from SiriusXM. And I came out of the into the segment with the soundbite of John Kerry talking about how we need a ceasefire. Yes, Israel needs to be assured of their security and to get rid of the tunnels, but you know, the Palestinians also need to have goods delivered into Gaza, etc. And I then framed the first question on that, based on that remark by Kerry, saying, we're talking about Hamas, okay? Hamas is the government of the Gaza Strip. The reason Israel has blockaded Gaza, the reason Egypt has closed their border with Gaza, is because they didn't want rockets smuggled in to Gaza anymore. It's because they didn't want cement and materials that would normally be used to build hospitals and schools and homes, but were being used to build tunnels, smuggled in anymore. That's why there's a blockade It's not gratuitous in nature. And so instead of focusing on that, Rick Unger decided to go off on a tangent about how Hamas wasn't elected by the Palestinians in Gaza. And I was sure they were. And we did some research here. David, our fine assistant / intern, or intern / assistant, sent me the actual Washington Post story. Now, first of all, let me just tell you that in 2005, Israel officially got everybody out of Gaza, gave the whole kit and caboodle to the Palestinians. Left, as I alluded to earlier, millions of dollars in infrastructure, greenhouses. Jewish philanthropists from all over the world contributed millions of dollars to give the Palestinians something. So when they took over, they had something, a head start. And the first thing the Palestinians did was destroyed the greenhouses, destroyed everything. They wanted nothing from Jews. They wanted nothing from Israel. So they had bupkis, is what you might want to call it, okay? Then they held elections in January of 2006. January 27th, 06, Washington Post. The radical Islamic movement Hamas won a large majority in the new Palestinian parliament, according to official election results announced Thursday, trouncing the governing Fatah party in a contest that could dramatically reshape the Palestinians' relations with Israel and the rest of the world. And then we go into detail here. I don't know what to tell you, but Hamas did win that election, okay? They did win the election. So don't tell me Hamas was never elected by the Palestinian people. Then fights ensued. Yes, fights. Call it a war, call it battles. It wasn't really a war for the Battle of Gaza. Fatah, Hamas. Guess what? Hamas took control June of 2007, and they've been in place ever since. And they have done nothing but attack Israel, forcing Israel to eventually blockade. That's why there's a blockade in place. So the people who are tweeting me and emailing me saying, hey, you should learn from Mr. Unger, you should learn your history. I know my history. Hamas are terrorists. You can't separate the government and Hamas from the people of Gaza when rockets are raining down on you. It is what it is. It's war, and it's hell. And we've launched war, and other people have been in war. Okay, we'll be back with Congressman Steve King and more of the show. But first, here is Dr. Chauncey Crandall to tell you how to eat like a caveman.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Back in the 50s, sod farmers invented hydroseeding as the easiest way to grow beautiful grass. But you're still doing this. You want a great-looking lawn, but have dry spots, dog spots, high traffic areas, and shade. What a nightmare. You seed, water, and wait. But the only thing growing are the weeds. It's no wonder the seed gets washed away, blown away by wind, and eaten by birds. Not anymore. Introducing the revolutionary Hydro Mousse Liquid Lawn with spray and stay technology. The grass grows where you spray it. Start growing with ease. If you can water your lawn, you can hydroseed. Simply attach to any garden hose and turn the dial to seed. Forget the guesswork. Hydro Mousse shows you exactly where you're planting. The Green Mousse formula contains an eco-friendly sticking solution that attaches the seed to the soil and a conditioner to loosen hard dirt, allowing it to absorb water, resulting in a terrific looking lawn. We sprayed Hydro Mousse on this vertical burlap wall, and look, the seed locks in place, even upside down. And the grass grows like crazy, even on a vertical wall. It grows in extreme heat or cold conditions. It's perfect for dog spots, high traffic areas, large areas, and shade, and no more guesswork. Hydro Mousse includes a mixture of high-quality seed that blends perfectly with your existing lawn. It's never been faster or easier to get professional results at a fraction of the cost. So why pay a fortune for sod or seed the old-fashioned way when you can get the complete Hydro Mousse kit for only $19.95 to bring your lawn back to life? That's enough to do 100 spots or 50 square feet. But call now and we'll double the coverage. That's an incredible 200 spots or 100 square feet. And don't forget to ask the operator for large lot and acreage discounts. So don't put up with this when you can have this.
Call 1-800-341-7712 or go to hydromousse.com.
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedoms, our Constitution, and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
We got him, Congressman, we got him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back. And while everybody is focused on Putin and Ukraine and Hamas and Israel, and not necessarily wrongly focused, nonetheless, that focus should be extended and brought back to where it was before the two aforementioned events, and that was directly on our southern border. And here to talk about that, we welcome back Congressman Steve King, member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security. Hey, Congressman. Hey, good to talk to you again. Okay, it's getting very worrisome, is it not, with the predictions and the leaks from within the administration that this president has told people, activists, etc. One congressman in particular has been out there saying the president told me that he's going to use that pen as he has in the past, but this time to grant basically amnesty to 5 or 6 million illegals.
It is something that I have feared for a long time, and now when you hear Dan Pfeiffer floating that trial balloon, that tells you they're getting ready to do this. And right now, I'll tell you, it's likely that they do. It's likely that they do sometime. I'm gonna pick the week, the third week in August. It's when Congress isn't in session. It's about as far away as you can get from Congress coming back in session. It's just past halfway point of the August break. And they think that things will die down by the time we get back in town in September, and that we're unlikely to come back here and do anything. And furthermore, what can Congress do to stop this? It is very, very slim on the options that we have. We went through a government shutdown last fall. We just simply said we're not going to fund Obamacare. The president shut the government down, and a couple of dozen Republicans decided they didn't want to go through any more of the stress and tension. And so they were prepared to join with Democrats, and the government got opened back up again, and the president was able to dish the blame off elsewhere. So controlling the budget isn't a very good tool, and we don't have a tool that actually works. Our founding fathers didn't devise one for us because they did not imagine that we'd have a president who would take his oath of office and decide that he would just simply violate it at will and refuse to enforce the laws that he doesn't like. If you can refuse to enforce the law, you can do most anything, and it is you're a super legislature. And so what he's done is he's simply stepped into Article 1, our authority, and taken it on himself and decided he's not going to enforce immigration law. And now, if he takes DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which has a date of December 31st of 2013 that you had to be in America by, it's not very verifiable, or you had to be here under the age of 18, scrub those 2 dates out of there, and you've got blanket amnesty for almost everybody in America.
And what on earth is that going to mean for this country?
It means that it's almost the mirror of the success of the King of 8 bill, which is this. It's instantaneous, perpetual, and retroactive amnesty. In other words, the people that are here that haven't been caught committing felonies, they get to stay and they get legalized in a work permit and a path to citizenship. And those who would come after that, it's an implied promise that they also get those same things. And anybody that has been deported in the past, it's an invitation that says come back into America. It is a complete destruction of the rule of law with regard to immigration. And we could not expect to see it restored again within the lifetime of this republic.
So even if you guys take the Senate and then take the White House in 2016, it's going to be almost impossible to undo what he will do if he does it, correct?
Almost impossible. And, just think about it in terms of when people once get a legal status, how do you ever go and take it away from them? And how do you identify who they are? Many of them are on false documents to begin with. And I know that I've asked them when I thought about, I tried to bring some into an advisory committee, and I will say, I want to see a birth certificate. And they will say, okay, fine, I can get you a birth certificate. What do you want it to say? You can't track them. We're watching. I just came back from a border trip. The unaccompanied alien children, which numbered over 57,000 more than a month ago, easily over 60,000 today, they're being dispersed across the country, often with federal tax dollars, and they are not printing them. They're not taking their fingerprints or any kind of biometrics, not an iris scan, not any DNA. They're not even taking digital photographs of them because they have a policy decision that children have a privacy even though they've committed federal crimes.
And they're gone. Now they're gone.
And never to be traced down again.
Yep.
No way to identify them with the transaction that took place when the federal government took over after the Coyotes and completed the crime.
And then we're going to hear in subsequent years that people in the shadows, well, these are shadows created by this policy, that's for sure.
They are. And the millions and millions, in fact, billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer resources that are being used to complete the crime. We went from the mouth of the Rio Grande and followed the river all the way to Laredo and stopped in at almost every port of entry, and certainly Brownsville and McAllen, what should I call them, HHS transfer centers. We went to Sacred Heart Church, where they're also doing some of these things. I got a good look at and talked to regular citizens on the ground, probably 90% Hispanic that we spoke with, and the regular citizens say, you've got to stop this. This needs to end. And one of the best things local law enforcement can say to us is most of them are traveling outside the area. They come through, but they go on to other points north. So we're spending these billions of dollars and transferring people to many of the states, maybe even all of the states, where they get a traveling document from the Border Patrol that is a single sheet of copy paper with a permit printed on it by the printing machine of the Border Patrol. And there's no picture on it, there's no prints on it, there's just a name.
And they could get on any commercial jet they want, right?
They can, and they often get on a commercial jet with 2 of our federal officers to be delivered to the address of their choice. And that might be a crack house, it might be an MS-13 house, it might be a cat house.
All right, let me ask you, Congressman, there's been a lot of speculation since the White House also threw out there the trial balloon, if you will, of this president might be impeached. Do you think, as some believe, that he wants to be impeached because he doesn't think he'd ever be thrown out in the Senate, that he would welcome impeachment? It would just make him more of a, I don't know, hey, they don't like me. Why are they doing this to me? Must be something different about me, like he's doing with the lawsuit.
I'm not quite there on that yet. I've just started to digest the thought process of what it would be like to think that, well, I'm the president of the United States, and go ahead and impeach me. That'll make me a martyr. It's part of the Messiah complex that the president has. I can follow that rationale on him. It would be the most extreme narcissist that you could ever find would be somebody that would say, go ahead and crucify me in the House of Representatives, but I've got eternal life in the United States Senate. So it'll make me the martyr that I need to be, and history will look upon me benevolently and kindly, and we will put tens of millions of illegal aliens into America who are undocumented Democrats, and we will start the process to document them and thereby convert America into a leftist state in perpetuity.
But what you know of Obama, that's a possible scenario?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And
what's the likelihood, Congressman? What's the likelihood that if he signs this, come, I guess, I'm sure nothing will happen for a while, but come next Congress, which would begin in 2014, that there would be impeachment proceedings?
I don't think we could wait that long. I just think that at the moment that he might do such a thing, there has to be an immediate and a visceral response. And that is what they want, by the way. And I don't want to play into their hands if they're right on their strategy. But if the American people get their back up, that will backfire on them. And that is what it takes. Our founding fathers did sort this out in the Constitution among the three branches of government. When there is a power struggle between the three branches of government, you're not always going to settle that in the court or with the appropriations or with impeachment. The American people are going to settle it, and that's the balance that's there. And if the American people are apathetic, then the president's going to deliver to us what he wants to deliver.
Congressman, is he testing? Do you believe in his last 2 years here, 2.5 years, he's testing? He wanted to fundamentally change America. That he's testing our very system to see if it will survive.
Well, he has a significant disrespect for the Constitution, and this is an assault on the Constitution. That's whether it survives. I have to believe it will because it's such a profoundly, perfectly balanced document.
I don't doubt that it will. But do you think he's purposely testing and pushing and prodding?
Yes, I do.
You do.
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
It is not just dumb floundering around that results in this. This is calculated. He put the best attorneys possible together to figure out how far he could go with this amnesty, and they decided that as long as criminal charges are not going to be brought against the president of the United States, as long as he's not going to have to serve hard time, they're going to push it beyond the limit.
Congressman, thank you very much. Good to talk to you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I wish I could have cheered myself up, Steve.
I'll try cheering you up next time. All right, Congressman Steve King, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming back with Gimme 5, and of course that will be followed by your News Max Now update. Don't go away.
Smile.
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
I met St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
Pat Boone here with a question. Which asset class has grown five-fold over the last decade? It's not stocks, not bonds, not even real estate. Precious metals, that's right. Silver and gold are real money, and they have been for thousands of years. They're a trustworthy dollar alternative and money worldwide. Best of all, precious metal prices are still within reach for every American. I've been suggesting buying precious metals for years now, and to show you how sincerely I mean it, my friends at Swiss America will send you a free silver ingot just for making time to discuss the value of owning some gold and silver as wealth insurance. Why don't you call them now at the number below or visit SwissAmerica.com and you'll be rewarded in silver. Life's full of dark clouds. Swiss America can help you find their silver and gold lining today.
This plan is going to tax me more, isn't it?
It's not that I want to punish your success. I just want to make sure that everybody who is behind you, that they've got a chance at success too. I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for it.
Spread the wealth around. Remember that one, Joe the Plumber. Welcome to Give Me Five. Barack Obama talking to CNBC over the weekend and asked about how much is enough to take from people. What's the line? What's the limit? Watch.
A bunch of times that getting the wealthy to pay a little bit more. Yeah. And you've succeeded in raising that top tax rate to 39% or rolling back the tax cuts. Is there a limit there? Is there a limit to how much you believe the government should take from an individual in terms of a top tax rate?
Oh, that must be above his pay grade, because guess what? He does not have an answer.
You know, I don't have a particular number in mind, but if you look at our history, we are still well below what, you know, the marginal tax rates were under Dwight Eisenhower or, you know, all the way up even through Ronald Reagan. The tax rates are still lower on average for most folks. And what that means is that we probably can make some more headway in closing loopholes that folks take advantage of, as opposed to necessarily raising marginal rates.
Loopholes? They're called deductions. He takes advantage of loopholes because he only pays 20-some-odd% by taking advantage of loopholes. More.
You know, an obvious example is carried interest. I've talked about this before. You know, so I've got friends of mine who are hedge fund managers, and they don't always like to hear it, but some I think will readily acknowledge. If you're making $1 billion a year and you're paying 15% on that $1 billion when your secretary is paying 20%, 23%, you know, that's not fair.
It's not fair. I'm going back a few years when people even followed what he pays in income tax. There was a point, a couple of years back, where his secretary paid a higher rate than he did. The women in his office make less than the men. He wants what's good. He wants to tell you all and me all and we all what to do, but he doesn't have to abide by it. More.
And if we close some of those loopholes, not just carried interest, but a range that we know are not economically productive, then sure, some folks don't get to take advantage of stuff they shouldn't have been taken advantage of anyway. But that also means we can finance government, keep our deficits under control, and invest in the things that we need to grow over the long term.
That's what I want to do. I want to pay more taxes to finance government. That's really what I want to do. Don't tell anybody the Treasury's taking in more money now than ever before. But we need to pay more in taxes to finance government because there's no waste in government. Oh, by the way, here's another oldie but goodie. Just like Joe the Plumber, we brought you that at the beginning. Let's close with a couple of these. Remember this little ditty.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there.
Yeah, you're not so smart, you're not so hardworking just because you're successful. Remember that? And remember how he topped it off? Oh, it's unforgettable.
If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Right. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made it happen. Oh, my goodness, folks. We knew what we were getting with this guy. And yet, because I believe the color of his skin, people didn't care. A majority of people didn't care. They didn't care the first time, certainly. And the second time, after his miserable failures, they didn't care again. Now they would elect Romney by 9 points. Because I don't even want to say the thrill is worn off. Why was the thrill ever there? Because this is who the man is on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Do you have questions about Medicare? Are you new to Medicare? Are you wondering about your choices? With over 30 years of Medicare experience, United Healthcare Medicare Solutions can help. Call now to learn more about plans available to you, including AARP Medicare plans, or to get this free Medicare Made Clear answer guide. It was created to help make the different parts of Medicare easier to understand. Medicare has two main parts, Parts A and B, to help cover a lot of your expenses, like hospital care and doctor visits. But they still won't cover all of your costs. United Healthcare has the information you need to help you be better prepared when making Medicare decisions. So call toll-free now or visit us online. Are you looking for something nice and easy, like a single plan that combines Medicare Parts A and B with medical and drug coverage? Well, a Medicare Advantage plan can give you doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage all in one plan. Maybe you'd like help paying for your prescriptions. Consider a Part D prescription drug plan. These plans can help reduce the cost of your prescription drugs. Call now to learn more about what United Healthcare offers, like AARP Medicare plans. We'll send you Medicare Made Clear free. One of the many ways United Healthcare can help guide you through your Medicare choices. If you or someone you love is new to Medicare, retiring, losing employers' retiree health benefits, or simply looking for answers to Medicare questions, like what's the difference between Parts A, B, C, and D, call toll-free now or visit us online and download your guide free at answerstomedicare.com/TV. It's full of useful information to help you understand your Medicare choices, and it's only from United Healthcare Medicare Solutions. Call right now or visit us online.
I'm Miranda Kahn. A new bipartisan bill may offer hope to our country's veterans. That story tops your Newsmax Now update. Earlier today, lawmakers presented a $17 billion bipartisan bill in an effort to reform the scandal-plagued Department of Veterans Affairs. Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders says the bill will strengthen the VA.
Funding for veterans' needs must be considered a cost of war and appropriated as emergency spending. Planes and tanks and guns are a cost of war. So is taking care of the men and women who use those weapons and who fight our battles.
Sanders says that's the driving mechanism of this reform bill. Meanwhile, VA Committee Chairman Jeff Miller, a co-author of the bill, had this to say.
Senator Sanders and I differ about certain things, but one thing that we do agree about is that the veterans of this country deserve the best quality health care that they can get in a timely fashion, and that has not been the case as of late.
This bill will also allow the VA to hire additional doctors and nurses to combat those long wait times that we all heard about at the agency. The Sanders-Miller reform bill will have to pass both houses and is expected to do so by the end of this week. Secretary of State John Kerry continues to work towards a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East. Earlier today, Kerry said an agreement could be reached without violence.
Any process to resolve the crisis in Gaza in a lasting and meaningful way must lead to the disarmament of Hamas and all terrorist groups.
Meanwhile, today marks 3 weeks of fighting along the Gaza-Israeli border. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update. We'll have more coming your way in about 30 minutes.
All right, folks, the final hour of the Monday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. Glad you are aboard. Ed Rollins, Republican campaign consultant, will be here to talk about the poll numbers, the recent poll numbers for Barack Obama. They're not good. And, of course, the CNN poll that shows a head-to-head matchup, if it were held today, between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, it would be a completely different story. Then Tim Graham, executive editor of newsbusters.org and director of the media analysis at the Media Research Center, will be talking about the coverage of the Israel, Hamas, and Ukraine situations. Then Douglas Ernst, writer and digital editor for the Washington Times, his piece about ISIS threatening President Obama. You're not going to want to miss that. And you got your Gimme 5, of course, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Gentlemen, in the Gimme 5 in the previous hour, if you were watching, you heard me discuss the president and what he had to say over the weekend and what he had to say in the past, of course, about, to Joe the plumber and all that kind of stuff. I want Ed Rollins to listen to these two cuts one at a time, and then we'll talk about them. Here we go.
At times that getting the wealthy to pay a little bit more. Yeah. And you've succeeded in raising that top tax rate to 39% or rolling back the tax cuts. Is there a limit there? Is there a limit to how much you believe the government should take from an individual in terms of a top tax rate?
Okay, that's a good question. And I guess, as I said earlier, it must be above his pay grade because he didn't have a specific answer. Here it is.
Particular number in mind, but if you look at our history, we are still well below what the marginal tax rates were under Dwight Eisenhower, or all the way up even through Ronald Reagan. Tax rates are still lower on average for most folks, and what that means is that we probably can make some more headway in closing loopholes that folks take advantage of, as opposed to.
All right, folks, there you go. Joining us now is Ed Rollins. Ed, welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Steve. How are you?
Always great to talk to you. I'm fine, thank you.
My
All right,
pleasure.
so let's focus on this for a second. I mean, here the president, he's pulling out the kind of the class warfare, the populist stuff again. Although he agreed to sit down and do the interview with CNBC, he knew what he would get. Haven't heard this kind of rhetoric in a while.
Well, at the end of the day, I think this president clearly believes in a redistribution of wealth, and I think it's kind of a Robin Hood strategy of take from the rich and give to the poor. But I'll tell you a story. I asked Ronald Reagan one time when I was working for him, where did he come up with his tax policy? And he said, Ed, when I was making movies, he said the tax rate was 90%. And he said, at the end of the day, he said, I wasn't a star. The stars were the John Waynes and the Clark Gables and what have you, and they made movies around them. And it was 90% over $100,000. So they would make one single movie, and then they wouldn't make a second movie. They would say, and they basically said that I'm not going to basically work for 9 cents on the dollar. And when they didn't work, no one else worked. And the basic premise is, as Ronald Reagan said when I walked away from that, he said, I realized you've got to create incentives for the most able people in the country, in the sense of earning wealth, to go out and earn wealth. And he said, the movie industry clearly shut down. My father was a shipyard worker. He didn't make anywhere near kind of money that movie stars made, but he worked with a crew of 8 or 10 people, and he did all the overtime. He was a single earner in my family. And all of a sudden his overtime quit. And I asked him why did he quit? He said, well, my new boss, basically he and his wife both worked. They're in a 56% bracket. He said, I don't want to work anymore. I want weekends off. I don't want the overtime. We're way too high a bracket. So when they didn't work, the 8 or 10 men in my dad's crew didn't work. So at the end of the day, when the tax policy was 70%, 90%, as he alludes to, there were extraordinary incentives to keep a lot of people. We drove our economic policy. There were public housing projects, all kinds of stuff like that. What we've done since the '86 tax bill is we eliminated an awful lot of those tax cuts and breaks, and we now have a very high tax rate. And what he discounts, that's just the federal. When you add the state and city and Medicare and what have you, you literally are taking people who are not rich, but people who do well. You're taking more than half of their income away from them. And in turn, you talk about Joe the plumber. There was a plumber came up to Reagan one time, and he thanked him for basically having his tax cuts. And Reagan said, I didn't realize you made that much money. And he said, I didn't make that much money. He said, poor people don't hire plumbers. He said, rich people hire plumbers. Poor people go out and get Drano or a plunger. He said, I need people who make money and basically employ people like me to do my job. And I think if we think in those terms of how do you create an environment which is the most able people in the economy to make money and recreate jobs and what have you, as opposed to taking that money away from them and penalize them, which I think is what this president is.
What a great story and a great analysis about how to incentivize people as opposed to disincentivizing them to work and to want to succeed. It seems to be what this president's all about, the antithesis of Ronald Reagan in every way. And let's talk about the poll numbers. On Friday, the 3-day rolling average was 39% approval for Obama. The CNN poll over the weekend that said in a head-to-head matchup with Romney, if it were held today, it had increased from, I think, a 3 or 2 point Romney victory a month ago to a 9-point Romney victory. And buyer's remorse is one thing, but now you got the president talking about, and they're really leaking it on purpose. Signing an executive order, the executive order, maybe the mother of all executive orders, to give free status and give amnesty, if you will, to 5-6 million illegals in this country. It's as if he's pushing the limit just to see how far he could go.
Well, he's gone as far as he's going to go, and I think John Boehner and the House of Representatives are going to try and bring him back to the courts as they justifiably plan. This is a guy that passes himself off as a constitutional lawyer. He never practiced constitutional law. He taught it part-time. You got to go back and you got to read the Constitution. And there's a very clear definition between Article 1 and Article 2. The Congress makes the laws, the president implements the laws. It doesn't say anywhere about the president making laws himself if he didn't basically like what the Congress was doing. And I think that's clearly where he is today, is this Congress, which is now divided on both the partisanship and other things. And that's also part of a check and balance, that clearly he cannot get a consensus and he can't get what he wants out of the Congress. But nowhere in the Constitution does it then say the president can go out and basically spend money or raise money or pass laws. And I think to a certain extent these are very serious issues. Our forefathers had great wisdom when they developed the Constitution. for checks and balance. This president right now is unchecked.
All right. Well, Congressman Stephen King was with us earlier, and he said he predicts this is going to happen the third week in March. So my question, and then he said that the Congress must immediately act to begin impeachment against this president. Ben Carson said impeachment, also today on this show, is something that needs to be seriously talked about. But is this playing into the White House's hands? Because I can't remember when a White House sent people out to say, hey, you know, there's a chance the president's going to be impeached if he does this. It's almost as if they're daring or hoping. How do you interpret this?
I interpret it as their method of raising money. And I think after the attempt at impeaching Clinton, which the House did impeach him, the Senate didn't convict him, I think people think that's something we shouldn't do as a nation. And my sense today is it's very clear, again, in the Constitution of high crimes, and this president has committed high crimes. He's been incompetent, and he basically hasn't led, and he hasn't done the things he should have done as a leader, but he hasn't committed any criminal acts to the best of my knowledge. So I think for us to even have any kind of rhetoric about that would be foolish. It would fail miserably. The Republicans won't pass an impeachment in the House. And I think to a certain extent what we got to do is pursue the John Boehner course, bring it to the courts, let the courts make the decision as to who's right or who's wrong. Democrats clearly want to exploit this because they basically think this gives them great advantages to raise money and other things.
All right,
I think we ought to
I'm sorry.
Back away.
But now, from a political point of view, as far as the executive order, if he does go ahead with it, does he believe that that's going to? I mean, it could motivate his base, if you will, I guess the Democratic base, so maybe it'll give them some kind of exhilaration. But won't it motivate in droves? I mean, and maybe 10 times more the Republican base to come out in November. So I'm just curious as to what you think the political fallout would be for November if he signs this in late August.
I think at this point, this president needs to basically do what his job encompasses, which is not basically making executive orders that violate the law. I think to a certain extent, immigration is a very controversial issue. It doesn't have overwhelming support in this country. It's a complicated process to get it through the Congress. The border situation that we have today is inflaming people. And I think to a certain extent, anything he does to basically give amnesty or whatever he wants to call it to these people that are here illegally will basically create a backlash and will encourage a significant voter backlash among Republicans, independents, and a lot of Democrats. Yeah. So I think if he does that, we will collaborate him in the midterm elections, as I think we will anyways.
All right. Ed, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ed Rollins, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. Take care, Ed. Here on the Steve Malzberg Show. No, fascinating. I was very curious to hear the last answer to the last question, because it just shows more and more. You know, you talk about a president detached who doesn't care. How could he not care about what this will do for his party? I mean, they're in enough trouble. They're in enough trouble as it is in November, if today were November. Based on the landscape around the world. Madeleine Albright, the world is, I forget what she said already. I've played it so many times. The world's a mess. And Obamacare, which nobody's even talking about anymore hardly. IRS, you name it. And now he's going to throw this on top of it, which in the opinion of Ed Rollins, a great political mind, and I'm happy to say I expected that answer. Anything else would have surprised me. It'll only add to the clobbering that Obama and his party will take in November if he goes ahead with this. But he doesn't really care. I can't imagine how Democrats will continue to support him. When I say Democrats, I mean the elected Democrats in the House and the Senate. What are they going to do after that if they get clobbered? I mean, do they want to get clobbered? Is that what Obama wants? He wants to get clobbered and then impeached so the party could somehow raise money and win the White House again in 2016? I don't even get it anymore. I don't even get it. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not capable of getting it anymore. But always great to talk to Ed. All right, folks. Up next, the executive editor of Newsbusters and the director of media analysis, easy for me to say, at the Media Research Center, Tim Graham will be here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
As women, we always talk about how we should look or what's the best way to lose weight. But for me, it finally became all about how I feel. No tricks, just me. I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't want to see, the truth. I was 50 pounds overweight. It was a rough day. That's when I decided I had to lose weight. So I chose the only simple option for me, Nutrisystem.
Now you can lose weight even faster with the Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day My Way plan and we'll rush you the Fast 5 kit free. You'll get a week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes, and a free week of 21 delicious meals, and it's all free.
So why do I keep telling you about Nutrisystem? Because it works, and I know it'll work for you.
Call 877-271-DIET and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
On Newsmax TV, Vladimir Putin is starting a new Cold War, and Obama won't stop him. Find out the surprising reason why. Watch J.D. Hayworth on America's Forum to find out Putin's real plan.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Let's talk about these civilian deaths. Last night, our network aired scenes of the largest hospital in Gaza having to turn away dead bodies at the hospital morgue. There was no more room. You've seen the widely chronicled story of the boys on the beach in Gaza who were killed. How does it strike you as a father, as a human being?
All right. I mean, I think I'm saving that one forever because to me, that's going to be one of the notable quotables of the Media Research Center's annual Notable Quotables. Of course, I could be wrong. Joining us now is Tim Graham, Executive Editor of Newsbusters and Director of Media Analysis at the Media Research Center. Hey, Tim.
Hello.
That has a shot, right, at being a notable quotable?
Yeah, I mean, how is he supposed to answer that? You know, as an automaton who likes killing civilians, how do you respond?
I mean, yeah, of course. To me, it just smacks of the. I watched this stuff. I mean, yesterday I watched Mark Lamont Hill on CNN call for the U.S. to put sanctions on Israel. That's what I hadn't heard so far until last night. But I watched this, and I'm wondering, does the media not know that Hamas is a terrorist group like Al-Qaeda, like all the others, or do they just not care?
I think the answer is that they feel that in most foreign conflicts, they are trained as journalists to always suspect that the United States is doing something immoral. In this conflict, Israel is seen as the United States. So Israel must be doing something wrong, especially when the prime minister's not, shaking hands with whoever the Palestinian leader of the moment is. So, I mean, I think in this particular case, Israel is the stand-in for the United States. Therefore, Israel is the aggressor, and somehow the Palestinians are the victim. In a way, you could say Brian Williams is in the same mold as his old predecessor, John Chancellor. You'll remember this was a classic notable quotable back in the day after George H.W. Bush waged war in Iraq. He said, "The disparity in casualties is embarrassing, Tom." And that's really the way they feel about this, is that, well, because Hamas is losing 1,000 to 30, well, clearly the Israelis are doing something wrong.
Yeah, if only there were more dead Jews, then it would be a little bit more even.
I think I'm sorry, I think that's sort of the logic that's being employed here, and that is, don't you feel bad about your success? Now, obviously, it is not the objective of Israelis' military policy to slam into a bunch of civilians. However, when they are trying to go after people who are launching the missiles or the stocks of missiles, yeah, they don't seem to care in our media that the missiles are being stocked in schools or that the missiles are being hidden in hospitals.
Well, now, I have a friend who wrote me and said that, and as tragic as it is that 16 people and many of them children died at that UN school, we still don't know who did it. Israel didn't have to, but they came out and admitted, yeah, a mortar shell landed in the courtyard of that school. They showed a video of it. No one was in the courtyard. And what struck me, Tim, was the CNN reporter who, went there after the fact and found the hole in the ground, and they measured it, and he admitted, and I don't know if this was picked up or not, he admitted after Israel released that video and said no one was killed by this mortar, he said that he did not actually go to the school and see the dead in the school. He saw them coming out of the ambulances. Now, I'm only nitpicking like this because I remember the Jenin massacre. I remember the fake funerals. I remember the dead kids, quote unquote, showing up twice, being carried in and out of the ambulance twice in previous wars and conflicts. So excuse me if I'm a little skeptical of the Hamas propaganda machine.
And yet the news media we have feels like they are, as they've been attacked by Rula Jibril and these other people who are advocating for the Hamas position, that, oh, the Palestinians aren't getting a fair shake. The Israelis are getting all of the interviews. And let's not pay any attention, as we've just seen for Brian Williams, of the ferocity of the interviews of the Israelis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now, by the way, there's breaking news that a school's been hit. I mean, more bloodshed, more Israeli atrocities is my point. And again, there's a war going on now. We don't know who's responsible. And Israel fessed up and said with that mortar shell at the school, look, the mortar hit here. Yeah, shrapnel could be flying around, but that's not going to kill 16 people. So, I'd still love to get to the bottom of that, and maybe eventually, once this all settles down, it will. Now let's go to Ukraine and Putin. Are they letting, as the media let Obama off the hook?
Well, yeah, we just did a study. Scott Whitlock of our shop did a study of several days of the coverage here since this whole thing broke out with the jet being shot down and all the fighting we've had in the Gaza Strip. And what you find in all of this coverage is almost none. We've counted, 0.8% of the coverage featured someone being critical of the Obama administration's foreign policy. There is just, obviously, we all remember the Bush years. We remember how easy and quick they were to talk about Bush's bumbling, Bush's doing something wrong. They said the wrong things, they did the wrong things, they supported the wrong people, and our troops committed atrocities. And so here in this case, there's no opposing senators to call out the president. They're not getting any space on our morning and evening news programs. And there's really not much foreign criticism of this president either.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's very, very true. There was a time period there where it got a little bumpy, where they were, where they were out there and criticizing, and Carney in his last few days, and even Ernest in his first few days. But that seems to have passed us by. Yeah.
See, there is a big difference between what happens in the briefing room, as you know, and it can be pretty tough or tense in the briefing room.
And what gets on the networks, yeah.
They are very willing to say, let's leave all that on the cutting room floor.
It's unfortunate. But if you go to Newsbusters and the Media Research Center's websites, you see what was left on the cutting room floor, and that enables people like me to present it to the public as well. Tim, thank you very much for your time, sir, as always.
Sure, you bet.
Tim Graham, Executive Editor of Newsbusters and Director of Media Analysis at the Media Research Center. We'll be back with more, and stay tuned also for your Newsmax Now update on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Back in the 50s, sod farmers invented hydroseeding as the easiest way to grow beautiful grass. But you're still doing this. You want a great-looking lawn, but have dry spots, dog spots, high traffic areas, and shade. What a nightmare. You seed, water, and wait. But the only thing growing are the weeds. It's no wonder the seed gets washed away, blown away by wind, and eaten by birds. Not anymore. Introducing the revolutionary Hydro Mousse Liquid Lawn with spray and stay technology. The grass grows where you spray it. Start growing with ease. If you can water your lawn, you can hydroseed. Simply attach to any garden hose and turn the dial to seed. Forget the guesswork. Hydro Mousse shows you exactly where you're planting. The Green Mousse formula contains an eco-friendly sticking solution that attaches the seed to the soil and a conditioner to loosen hard dirt, allowing it to absorb water, resulting in a terrific looking lawn. We sprayed Hydro Mousse on this vertical burlap wall, and look, the seed locks in place, even upside down. And the grass grows like crazy, even on a vertical wall. It grows in extreme heat or cold conditions. It's perfect for dog spots, high traffic areas, large areas, and shade, and no more guesswork. Hydro Mousse includes a mixture of high-quality seed that blends perfectly with your existing lawn. It's never been faster or easier to get professional results at a fraction of the cost. So why pay a fortune for sod or seed the old-fashioned way when you can get the complete Hydro Mousse kit for only $19.95 to bring your lawn back to life? That's enough to do 100 spots or 50 square feet. But call now and we'll double the coverage. That's an incredible 200 spots or 100 square feet. And don't forget to ask the operator for large lot and acreage discounts. So don't put up with this when you can have this.
Call 1-800-341-7712 or go to hydromoose.com.
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your body to get that slim, sexy look of your dreams, then you need to stop working out. Say what? And start rocking out with Rockin' Body, the fun new body makeover system that was created by fitness expert and Insanity creator Shaun T.
Rockin' Body combines dance and fitness in a fun new way so you can achieve insane weight loss.
I lost 30 pounds dancing.
Now you can tone and tighten your abs, shrink and shape your hips and thighs, and lift and firm your booty, all while you're just dancing.
I've lost 33 pounds. I feel sexy.
And now, for a limited time, the complete $80 Rockin' Body system is 75% off. That's right, Rockin' Body is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Rockin' Body system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-718-8807 or order online at rockinbody.com. 1-800-718-8807. Call now.
Two men now face charges in connection to that carjacking in Philadelphia that had everyone on a 3-day manhunt. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update. Police charged Jonathan Rosa and Cornelius Crawford with 3 counts of felony murder after the SUV they carjacked hit and killed 3 children and critically injured their mother on a street corner. The family was selling fruit as part of a church fundraiser. Former Republican Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia is now on trial. McDonnell and his wife face several felony charges, including allegations of corruption and lying on financial documents. This is McDonnell, seen right here as he arrived at the courthouse today. Prosecutors say the governor abused his position by selling political favors in exchange for gifts, including Rolex watches, private plane rides, and cash loans. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
But there have been really 2 huge game changers.
And one is Putin's behavior vis-a-vis first Crimea and then now towards Ukraine, and a completely different kind of behavior by Russia. And the other is what is happening in the Middle East, a lot of it due to the Arab awakening and also the artificiality of the borders that were established after World War I. So these are huge game changers, and we are, a lot of Americans, trying to figure out where the countries are. Most Americans knew very little about Islam. They certainly didn't know a difference between Shia and Sunni. So there are an awful lot of things going on that need understanding and explanation. But to put it mildly, the world is a mess.
Yeah, there it is again. I thought it was worth hearing again because for Madeleine Albright to say the world is a mess. But of course, it's the Arab awakening that she blames it on. It's the World War I borders that were established for some of these countries, and it has nothing to do with our current policies, nothing to do with leading from behind, nothing to do with this administration. No, not at all. It's all about whatever, and it's just the world. For her to say the world is a mess, and she didn't even touch on a quarter of the problems. A quarter of the problems. Look at everywhere in the Middle East. Where is the Middle East stable? Where is the Middle East stable? Iran, they're the bad guys. We treat them like the good guys. Israel, they're the good guys. We treat them like the bad guys. Hamas, they have legitimate concerns, and they're a terrorist group. Libya, we had to abandon Libya over the weekend. Did you hear? We made such a mess of Libya, we had to get Gaddafi out. Egypt, thank God that Morsi's out of there after we threw Mubarak out of there. Iraq, we abandoned Iraq. Now you got a caliphate and you got ISIS. Syria, yeah, we showed Assad, didn't we? He just won another term. I mean, what? Did I mention Putin? And all I keep hearing is, oh, it's not going to matter, foreign policy. Nobody cares about foreign policy, when it comes to presidential elections. You just wait this time around. You just wait. If the right Republican candidate can present the right argument, it's going to matter big time, especially if Hillary, who's claiming she was such a great success for 4 years, she got so many things accomplished. So I guess she's blaming it all on Kerry. Anyway, Paul Ryan was on Meet the Press, and David Gregory did his best to belittle him. Watch.
Let's talk about your own attitudes about people who are poor and their views on government. You were on this program in January of last year, and you said the following.
We don't want a dependency culture. Our concern in this country is with the idea that more and more able-bodied people are becoming dependent upon the government than upon themselves or their livelihoods.
It doesn't sound like there's a lot of sympathy for people you think need the government's help. What you seem to be saying is that, people have a problem, with their own dependency here that government is only furthering.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you don't have a lot of sympathy for people who need the government's help. How dare you? Who are you? What are you doing here? Do we have time? No, we don't have time. Okay. But Paul Ryan was able to handle himself quite well. Thank you very much. I guess David Gregory's trying to go out with a bang. So maybe, Al Jazeera will be on the horizon or something. Rumor has it that he'll be out. Now, I got to tell you, between Chuck Todd and Joe Scarborough, who do I think would be better suited to host Meet the Press? Scarborough. I mean, I don't consider Scarborough conservative, so it's not really about that. I think Chuck Todd just isn't good. And, he'll take everything, all of his cues from the White House, in my view. What can I tell you? We'll be back with the digital editor of the Washington Times and more of the Steve Malzberg Show. But first, this hour's American Moment, and we take a look back at the history of flight.
Fly 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic.
Here she is, safe and sound, having just completed the first flight by a woman across the Atlantic.
Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon.
And I will ride into the fire.
That's one small step for man.
Rise above the flames.
One giant leap for man.
I will climb like a phoenix and rise.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We've only just begun. We're still pioneers.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler, and I know there are many myths out there about a reverse mortgage, so I want you to know the facts. There are currently no credit score or income requirements to qualify. You can get tax-free money from the equity in your home. You can use the money to pay off your current mortgage if you have one. The remaining money can be used for anything. There's no monthly mortgage payments, and you still own your home. Call today to get your free guide and DVD. It explains how a government-insured reverse mortgage works. There's no obligation. One Reverse Mortgage is a Quicken Loans company. Their licensed experts can answer all your questions. Call to find out what a great solution this can be. Don't wait. Call now.
Call 800-924-9033 to get your free quote. And when you call now, you'll also get a free lighted magnifier. Call 800-924-9033.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
If you're battling addiction, it's not easy to ask for help. End Addiction would like to help you. End Addiction can help you get immediate admission into a recovery center near you. Many insurance plans will pay up to $30,000 for the cost of getting you help with no money out of pocket. The first step to ending addiction starts with one free, private, and no obligation call. There are things you still need to do. The first thing is to call End Addiction.
1-800-365-6028.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
We're grateful, obviously, for the Egyptian initiative, for the Israeli efforts initially, but also this particular effort now has been significantly assisted by the input of Qatar, the input of Turkey, and the willingness of these foreign ministers to work hard, even though they were at a distance, and to engage directly with some of the Palestinian factions in order to try to help get us where we are today.
Just amazing. I mean, Qatar and Turkey, two enemies of Israel. No more Egypt, no Israel present at this the latest attempted a ceasefire agreement. And he expects Israel to sign on to this. I mean, it's insanity. Joining us now is Douglas Ernst, writer and digital editor for the Washington Times. We're not specifically going to talk much about this for long, but you wrote a great piece about ISIS threatening President Obama, which I want to get to. But Douglas, what's your take on what we saw from John Kerry? He's back in Washington now, but he was a disaster, was he not?
Yeah. The problem with this administration and certain people in it is they don't actually listen to Hamas. So the problem is, you have people for Hamas who their stated goal is the destruction of Israel. They say repeatedly that a truce is only time for them to get ready for the next attack. So I don't really have much faith in any sort of ceasefire agreements because they always use it just to come back and shoot rockets at Israel once again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, the worst thing for Israel is a ceasefire. And from day one, Kerry was saying, well, we'll have a ceasefire and then we'll talk about the underlying issues. Well, what? We're going to talk about Hamas's demands during a ceasefire? What? I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it feels like we're in Bizarro World or Twilight Zone where, I think you were talking with Noah Rothman of Hot Air last week where, you have these people that they're the ones that are hiding weapons in schools and mosques and hospitals, but the moral outrage is all directed at Israel.
Yeah, and if you watch some of the networks that the UN school, which by the way Israel released a video showing them hit the single mortar shell falling in the courtyard, and Israel says it couldn't have killed anybody, and then the CNN reporter had to admit that they never saw anybody injured in the school. They only saw them coming out of the ambulances. Now, I'm not here to doubt it definitively. But I've seen over the years, from the Jenin massacre, which never happened, right on through to faking funerals and faking everything else. So I put nothing past this propaganda machine of the Palestinians. But I'm not saying they did fake it. I'm not saying these people didn't die. But if Israel says that nobody died in that mortar that in a deserted courtyard, then I'll side with Israel on that. Now let's go to ISIS. They threatened Barack Obama at the White House. We're coming for you. Douglas?
Yeah, last week, Eliza Slotkin, who's the acting principal deputy undersecretary of defense for policy at the Defense Department, she came out with this quote, "We're coming for you, Barack Obama." I don't know if this was from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi or not, but they came out with this particular threat. And it's just kind of interesting because 6 months ago, the president was saying these guys were the JV team. Just because someone puts on a Kobe Bryant jersey doesn't mean that they're actually one of the Lakers. And now all of a sudden it's a big deal. And I think President Barack Obama is the first Nobel Peace Prize winner to have policies that essentially kick-started an Islamic caliphate in the heart of the Middle East.
We now have indications, Douglas, that the administration knew that this was going to happen. They knew that ISIS was was planning to do this, that they would undertake it, that they would do it. They have done it. And, and then we find out, of course, that the president found out about it on television with everybody else, like everything else that he finds out about. But there were reports written last week that this would have been preventable if we were proactive. Now, I mean, all indications are there's a caliphate. And the caliphate is there, and it might grow and expand, and let that be a legacy of Barack Obama. And I don't get it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because General James Amos, he just exited as the Marine Corps Commandant, a couple of weeks ago, he was at Brookings, the liberal think tank, and in a diplomatic way, he took Barack Obama to task for their Iraq policy and essentially said just that, the administration dropped the ball.
They did drop the ball, and they dropped the ball big time. Now, let's talk about the Russians, and not necessarily right now the Russians and the rebels and Ukraine and what Putin is doing and is about to do to Ukraine and what he did to the plane. But let's talk about the Russians and what they're supplying to the Iraqi army.
Yeah, that's another instance where... For whatever reason, Barack Obama has a habit of kind of pushing our allies away, and then a vacuum forms, and then somebody else who's a worse character fills that void. So I don't really understand what's going on. They were begging the United States to help them with airstrikes, weapons, and those are all tied up in Congress. Congress doesn't want to give them more weapons, somewhat understandably. And so now the Russians are stepping up to the plate.
And this is not the first time. I mean, my goodness, I don't think that Israel has many places to turn. although nothing would shock me, because certainly this administration is pushing Israel away also. You know, Madeleine Albright, Douglas, said that the world is just a mess. The world is a mess. And I mean, I don't, recall seeing, I wasn't around for World War II, but I just don't recall seeing, the Cold War notwithstanding, so many trouble spots, so many hot spots, so much chaos, as we have seen under Barack Obama throughout the world.
Yeah, if you were a Barack Obama voter in 2008 and 2012 and you're a single issue national security voter, you have to be asking yourself what happened. If you look all around the world, whether it's Syria, Iraq, Ukraine, Northern Africa, Libya, we evacuated the U.S. Embassy over the weekend. It seems like the world's worst dictators and despots and all the worst actors are kind of emboldened by the administration. And this is sort of what you get when you have a lead from behind philosophy.
And you're right, Libya, we didn't even talk about Libya. And there are people who say, and I have the strategists on all the time, I say, what does Hillary have to do to separate herself from Obama on foreign policy? Foreign policy, never a big factor in elections, especially presidential elections. I got to tell you, we're 2 years out, and I just don't see foreign policy not being a major part of the presidential scene in 2016, because the world is on fire, and eventually that fire is going to engulf the United States one way or another, and to ignore it or to say, well, people aren't going to care much about it in the presidential elections, I don't buy it this time around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were under the illusion, they bought into the line that it was that cowboy George W. Bush who was the cause of all the world's problems, and only if Barack Obama came in and kind of went on apology tours across the Middle East and pulled out all of America's skeletons out of its closet and apologized for real and imagined slights, that they would suddenly like us, that bad people would, become good people. And that's just not how the world works. And I think there's a lot of, especially young Barack Obama voters, who are probably waking up to that fact.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And Douglas, finally on the border here at home, recent poll out today from The Economist /YouGov.com, 77% want the illegals who have come recently, unaccompanied children, sent back home. So, the president might be about to sign an executive order giving amnesty to 6 million. That's not going to do too well for his party going forward either.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, there was a protest out of Chicago that was uploaded onto YouTube, and a lot of Chicagoans, the south side of Chicago, were livid at the president, saying that he was looking after illegal immigrants before he was looking after his hometown of Chicago. Granted, they wanted the federal government to give them, the taxpayer dollars, but regardless, they were livid at the president.
Yeah. Yeah, we played those, and also a woman from Houston who was also just beside herself. All African-American people in both of those videos. Hey, Douglas, nice talking to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Douglas Ernst, ladies and gentlemen, writer and digital editor for the Washington Times, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. The only thing Madeleine Albright has said since she's reemerged in the past week or so to trash Israel, the only thing she has said that I definitely agree with is that the world's a mess. The world is a mess, and particularly the Middle East is a mess. Libya, Syria, Iraq, you name it, and of course now Gaza, the whole thing. And who's in charge? Barack Obama. Give Me 5 is next. Don't go away, folks.
Could you afford to have your wealth cut in half? Pat Boone here. Seems the news gets scarier and scarier, doesn't it? Now, respected economists and even billionaires warn we're on the eve of a massive wealth destruction. Stock charts show amazing similarities to the months before the 1929 crash. Could they be right? Could Americans face an economic crisis worse than 2008, closing banks and slicing portfolio values in half? Yes, they could. Now, how would you survive if your wealth crumbled overnight? Nobody knows when wealth destruction may hit, but one thing I do know for sure, it's wise to have a gold and silver foundation before a crisis. Some timeless wealth insurance. Why don't you call the folks at Swiss America for their timeless truth about money kit? Better to be a month early than 1 second late. Call now.
The first time I heard the word grandma, what? At my age? No way. But then you hold him in your arms, oh, and everything changes. This is my first grandchild, Steven, and I want to be a part of his life for a long, long time. But you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself.
And now with Fast 5 from Nutrisystem, you can lose weight fast. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
Nutrisystem helps me do just that. I lost 50 pounds, and I feel great.
Order your 28-day My Weight plan right now and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes to rev your metabolism, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes to crush those cravings, plus 1 week of meals absolutely free.
Grandma? Yeah, I can own that. I'm a grandma. Don't wait. Call Nutrisystem today.
Start losing weight today.
Call now, 877-316-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
Palestinian militants may put civilians at risk by launching attacks from or near homes or public buildings, but under the rules of war, civilians who don't fight, the vast majority of ordinary Palestinians, Hillel, have to be protected. Yes, Israel gives warnings, but that doesn't give it the right to proceed and hit civilians who are left behind or who can't flee with little regard for their welfare, does it?
There you go. That's Al Jazeera TV. Thought we'd bring you a little taste. We had Al Arabiya TV's DC bureau chief walk out on my interview with him on Friday because I'm an Israeli propagandist, don't you know? And on this Gimme 5, a taste of Al Jazeera television. And here is Hillel Nauer responding.
Hamas is a fascist, oppressive organization, fundamentalist, radical jihadist organization, just like ISIS and Boko Haram, that is committing a double war crime. Not only have they sent 2,000 rockets, more than 2,000 rockets, at cities, towns, and villages across Israel, deliberately targeting civilians. And I was in Israel a couple of weeks ago when rockets were fired at Jerusalem, which Islamists are supposed to claim as a holy city. They fired indiscriminate rockets at Jerusalem and at Tel Aviv, but it's a double war crime because they are urging their citizens, their civilians in Gaza, to go precisely at where the rocket launcher sites are, telling them to be human shields. Hamas has gone on television and has told them literally, we need you to go on top of this or that building to be human shields. This is a double war crime.
Double war crime and more.
First of all, I would beg to argue with your comparison of Hamas as being like Boko Haram, but we're not here to discuss that at the moment. We're here to discuss whether war crimes have been committed by either side.
Hamas isn't like Boko Haram. No, they're good terrorists. Boko Haram is bad terrorists. You see, I beg to differ with you, Al Jazeera says. Now the ex-PLO attorney.
To suggest that somehow some Palestinian is going to be so blind as to allow themselves to be a human shield is silly and repugnant. And I think that rather than castigating Palestinians for dying, we should be castigating the Israelis for killing Palestinians. This is the line of questioning that we should be going down. And by the way, there have been inquiries in the past. None of them have ever demonstrated that Hamas or any other organization has used Palestinians as human shields. But the converse is true. Israel in the past has used Palestinians as human shields in order to carry out its military operations.
What on earth is she talking about? There's never been any proof of Hamas using Palestinians as human shields? The rockets found in the schools, the rocket launches and tunnels found in apartment buildings and dwellings, and Israel uses Palestinians as human shields? What is she talking about? Hillel?
Well, I think it's sad that Diana is contradicting her own organization she used to work for, the PLO, the Palestinian Authority, which in 2007, when there was the coup d'etat in Gaza and Hamas killed dozens and dozens of Fatah people and threw them off rooftops, they then called Hamas terrorists. And it's the same terrorist group. And what she said is contradicted by UNRWA and by the Palestinian ambassador in Geneva. UNRWA, twice in the past week, has said they've discovered large amounts of rockets in their schools. The UN Secretary General today has condemned that, said he's alarmed and outraged, and that the